Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeed on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Funny, real funny. And those hilarious sound effects you hear come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, who is not actually in Brooklyn at this point, at this moment. One agent underscore 70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? And in that vein,
no sleep till Brooklyn.
Indeed, and you can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
do it today.
You could also find this on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, excuse me, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us streaming on Twitch right now, which we're doing at this very moment, and also on the YouTube channel of the Click Nation. That's the Click Nation, the KLIQNATION.
That's right.
But if you're here, you already know that. But if you're catching us after the fact, hey, there you go. We are going to start off with the comic books as we do. We're going to start off with one of the big. I guess this is the book. Actually, literally and figuratively, big book of the week. Amazing Spider-Man number 49, a.k.a. Amazing Spider-Man 850.
Righto.
So yeah, this, a lot of stuff, in addition to being a big anniversary issues, and we got a couple of backups, this is kind of a turning point in... Well, I don't know if it's even we can even say it's a turning point in the chapter of the Sin Eater, but we basically know that it's a 4-part story dealing with Spidey and the whole Norman Osborn thing, dealing with Sin Eater, and also the other factor of the Fellowship of this Web, or whatever they call themselves. I can't remember what it is at this point, but and all of that kind of coming together in this story.
Order of the Web?
The Order of the Web, that's correct, yeah. So, but everything seems to be continuing to go along the path that was set before it. And apparently the Order figures this out kind of sort of late, but we're kind of skipping ahead. The first part is pretty much the surprising team up of one Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, and also, some history kind of being talked about, between the two being talked about during the course of the first couple of chapters. Of course, they have a long storied history with each other, and the first couple of chapters kind of gets rehashes into that. And the thing that tripped me out was about it, because I totally forgot that Osborn knew that Peter was Spider-Man. So that part kind of messed me up for a second. I'm like, wait a minute, when does it? Oh, right. Yeah.
Right, and they even, unfortunately, I'm having to go off of memory here, so forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, but there's a few things that pop up during this main issue, this main story, in this anniversary issue. As Roddykat mentioned, we're dealing with Spider-Man and the Green Goblin essentially working through a lot of their issues in order to keep each other alive. And, they have to, they're facing a super, super powered, what I called him was an Amazo android, alternative. And I'm speaking of the Sin Eater, because essentially what the Sin Eater has been powered up to become is like an Amazo android, because the second he shoots you with his mystical shotgun, he absorbs your powers. So at this point, we find out that he has shot the Juggernaut. And again, because of COVID and because of the release schedules for certain things, we're not sure if this is the Juggernaut when he still had the gem of Sidorak, or if this is the different version of the Juggernaut that is currently starring in his current miniseries.
Right. Yeah, I kind of wondered. Go. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that we had just seen maybe a few weeks ago.
Right.
You were saying?
Right. Which I was going to say that I'm kind of thinking this might be before, because this seems more like Juggernaut in his classic form, where in that new one is his new one, which if that kind of bears out, that this was pretty much before that, because we see what happens to the classic armor in that Juggernaut issue. So yeah, right. I thought about that myself, and I'm kind of thinking it's probably before.
Right, and we have to, and then we have to think of what happened, when that occurs, in the sense that, well, maybe he gets it back, because the reason why I think maybe he gets it back at the end of that series is because the timing is so off. Like the entirety of Hoxpox basically happened, in between. He's basically exiled from Krakoa.
Right.
So it's I'm not going to get into it, because at some point someone over at Marvel hopefully will figure out a timeline to kind of shoehorn this particular story into the continuity. But in any event, getting back to Amazing Spider-Man, Norman and Peter, and they're literally calling themselves that by first name throughout the
kind of willy-nilly. Yeah,
right, because at this point I don't think the Sin Eater I don't at this point I don't think it's any secret to the Sin Eater who they are, so I don't think they're beholden to their secret identities at this point. We find out that Norman is leading Spider-Man to some stuff that he's been working on as a result of being put in charge of Ravencroft, and Peter Spider-Man is basically the entire time thinking there's something going on right underneath his nose, but they're too busy trying to stay alive. And as Roddykat mentioned, the Order of the Web, which I think is the name of their little group.
That sounds right.
Which is essentially the other spiders in the 616.
Some would say the other Web Warriors minus the other folks that's still in their other separate dimensions. Right.
They intervene when things are about to, when they intervene when Spidey essentially is able to duplicate his previous victory over the Juggernaut, or at least temporarily, and Norman Osborn double crosses Peter Parker, and just as Pete's about to literally drown in liquefied concrete, the Order of the Web comes to save him, and we have some follow-up. This is not the finale of the story by any means. Right. This is just a large chapter to it. And that's where we find ourselves at the end of the issue, or at least the end of this main story, where Norman is dealt with, but nowhere near with any finality, and he's on his way to do stuff that may have been prophesied by Madam Web, aka Julia Carpenter.
Right. Well, yeah, that was what I was gonna mention, but I was gonna add to the part was like, yeah, so the little crux between that part, there was a little conversation, which actually brings back to what you were talking about them saying their, just saying their names just all willy-nilly. But when Peter is saved by the group, he pretty much he's just pretty much calling them by their names, which you didn't think anything. Well, I was like, well, why would you do that, Peter? But honestly, he just, not even thinking about it at the time. But it comes up right after that when they're trying to get away, when they're all trying to get away in Osborn's sub. Which, by the way, there's part of me, would be remiss without thinking that Ravencroft has turned into seem like definitely an Arkham Asylum type for Marvel, but also because of the fact that, like the Arkham Asylum, Batman has some stuff, at least in the game part anyway. Batman has a lot of stuff hidden in Arkham Asylum to use for his means, just like Osborn does in this one, and that's what kind of made me think about that. But that being the case, one of those things get used for them to escape, which is the underground sub that leads out of there. And while they're trying to get away, Osborn remembers that he hears Peter mentions one of them by name, and that kind of starts up a whole conversation and goes to pretty much kick off the choice that Peter ends up making and what Agent 70 just said.
Right. Yeah, there's a reference to a rather infamous story in Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah.
Something's wrong with your mic.
Hello?
I can hear you, but you just kind of sound.
Hello?
It's like you sound like you're on a radio or something.
Oh, well, let's see if we can fix that. So, I'm definitely on headphone set. So
Or you sound muffled.
Yeah, it's a little different. So, but I'll try to speak as clearly and as succinctly as I can. I forget the name of the story, and that's what I was going to look up. It was the story where it was revealed that Norman Osborn and Gwen Stacy had gotten it on, and that was referred to, and that gave me all the creepy vibes. So I'm sure you heard. I'm sure you got
there
that.
There we go. That's better. Whatever you just did worked.
Oh, okay. Well, in any event, I'm sure you got that reference, correct?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
You got the reference about I forget. Was it Sins of the Father? Was that the name of the story? I can't remember.
Oh, right. Yes.
It was, right?
I believe so. I would have to go back and check, honestly, because, but that sounds right.
I'm literally Googling that now because it seemed to, ring a bell, but I maybe not.
Right. Which now, got me thinking, I kind of wish we had, but we didn't think about that, or we may have thought about it, but we didn't, really say anything about it. When we were doing event books, I kind of wish we had done the whole Sin Eater storyline.
Oh, okay.
But,
No, it's Sins Past.
Sins
That's
Past.
What it's called.
Okay, yeah, that,
It was called Sins Past, the Gwen affair. Oh my gosh. Oh my.
But regardless.
Sins.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there's a direct reference to that. It brought back a bunch of weird and kind of icky memories of trying to figure that one out. So
yeah,
but like Roddykat said, that's what kind of leads Peter Parker into making the decision that he makes. And as I said earlier, we are not close to the end of the storyline because this is related to, we are left with a Kindred cliffhanger at the end. Mm-hmm. And mild spoiler alerts here. I'm going to ring the bell because I'm going to ask Roddykat who he thinks Kindred might be. So, spoiler bell in 3, 2, 1.
So that is, I'm still not entirely sure. I have seen an article about it recently that somebody wrote, and I was going to pull it because I just kind of was curious about who they thought it was going to be, but I hadn't yet, which I'm probably glad I didn't, because that would have probably informed what I would have said anyway. Well, we know who it's not, because, but yeah, I'm not, I at this point, I'm still not entirely sure. Do you have a thought?
Yeah. I'm in between two people.
Okay.
Right? I think the obvious one, and I read it, it might have been the same article you might be referencing. I think the obvious candidate is Harry. Right? Harry Osborn.
Sure.
Right? The other one is some one of the hobgoblins that had demonic powers, I think maybe went back and got an upgrade.
Hmm.
Because that's my guess.
Oh,
You know,
or maybe Jack-o'-lantern.
right? Like one of those hobgoblin types that had a demonic connection and
Mm.
maybe gotten an upgrade.
Although
That's
I want to say Jack-o'-lantern might be still in hell because I thought that might have come up recently, but
right. That's
yeah.
my guess. I mean, those I think are mine. Um,
Mm.
the the Harry Osborn one is the one that's informed by the articles I read. The
Mm.
other one was my thought because um, I think the Harry one is the strongest one because he's got such a mad on for Norman Osborn,
And
but
I
at the
feel like
same time,
that one would make sense. That would make sense given what Norman said in the beginning of the issue.
right, right.
Mm.
But at the same time, anyone that is connected to the Goblin is going to have a mad on for Norman, and that would include all of the hobgoblins.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there has been a demo goblin. There has been, lots of supernatural stuff involved with various editions of the hobgoblin. So that's also a strong possibility. But like
I
we said,
wouldn't. Now that you say that, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the original Hobgoblin.
right,
Yeah.
right, because they were all stealing from Osborn's weapon stash.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not exactly fans of Norman to begin with. Um,
Hmm.
so in any event, we can move on from that to any of the backup stories if you have anything to say. About them.
I'll just repeat what I told you earlier in the before we started. In that, so yeah, so there's two backup stories. One written by Kurt Busiek with art by Chris Bachalo, and we still hadn't really come down on that one. Or we might have previous, regardless. That one I enjoyed that one because it's not because of all the Beatles references that it's named and come off of, but also Chris Bachalo's art. So what?
I said that was my thing. I was literally singing along as Busiek was making various Beatles references because it's really an evergreen story. Despite the fact that music is further and further in our past every day that goes on, every day that passes, it's still, it's still. I don't want to say everlasting because very few things are, but we're still definitely in an era where Beatles music is alive and well.
Right.
So reading the story is just it's light fare. Believe it or not, that Red Raja character is a real character. I thought he made that.
Yeah.
We had talked about it.
I think we were going to talk about it, but yeah, we didn't necessarily get into it.
Right.
But yeah, the whole Beatles thing and that whole because I was like that whole. I thought that certain things like that for Red Raja is made up, but then there was a allusion made in the story that kind of made me just like, okay, this is clearly coming from something, from something in the past.
It's a pre-existing character that Busiek just decided to fold into the story. So
right.
Right.
And we kind of got a sort of a time frame for the story because it's, but not really.
Well, I would say that there's definitely a rubber band continuity factor here because the reason why I say that is Peter is still a Daily Bugle photographer. Essentially he's like a young adult still in college or grad school, still working at the Bugle, as I said. But he's also wearing gigantic headphones that are wireless.
Yeah.
So, that's the part where the rubber band continuity comes into play, and you have to think, wow, how long have we had gigantic wireless headphones? And then you think, hey, my Beats headphones are pretty old at this point.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, this kind of goes back to just like I usually kind of grouse about with the language that's sometimes used in the stories. Like this could be a part of that, but at the same time, like I was like, yeah, this is kind of that. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna let this one pass.
Right. I noticed that specifically because I am a purveyor. I'm a
believe me, I noticed it too.
Wireless headphones.
Right. Because at first, matter of fact, when you see that first page with with him and the phones, I'm sitting like, wait, did they? Is this like almost like an animated Spidey one, which is like a younger version, and are we doing something off of that? But no, it wasn't the case. But the last story, what's that?
Totally rubber band.
Yeah, you are totally right about that. But the last story was it's written by Trad Moore, who I believe is an artist.
Yeah,
but is doing his first writing.
Yeah.
And I forgot who did the art.
You have to take a look for him.
Yeah, I'm about to look. I'm looking up right now. While I'm doing that, which it was trippy. That's all. The main thing about it was like it was a real trippy story.
It was the Trad Moore, like, if you think of what Trad Moore's art looks like, he basically writes the same way.
Right.
His storytelling style comes
that checks out
in this book. Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a weird, matter of fact, wait, did Trad Moore do Silver Surfer Black?
Yes, he did Silver Surfer Black. He started out on Ghost Rider.
Yeah, in fact, he
first one. But yeah, he was on Silver Surfer Black most recently.
Okay, in fact, he wrote and did the art for it. I thought somebody else did the art for it. So yeah, he wrote for this story. Yeah.
Oh, for this story, yeah, for this story. No, he did. Someone else did the art. He just wrote it.
Right. No. It says here he's writer and artist, but he didn't do the. Yeah, but Tamara Bonvillain did the colorist. Was the colorist.
Gotcha.
And yeah, so that makes a whole lot of sense because I was gonna say it was his trippy style from Silver Surfer Black, which it is a more restrained version of that. And the last story was, which I was kind of slightly surprised to see, but not so much, was the last story was from Saladin Ahmed and Aaron Kuder on art.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the Starling story. So it's a story with Starling, which has Vulture in it because Vulture's her granddad, and her meeting Peter for the first time. That ends out kind of amusingly.
Right. Part of it, what I was going to add about this is that part of it sort of makes sense because this would not necessarily be good in the pages of the Miles book because it would take up kind of valuable real estate from his storytelling.
Right. Some would argue
telling Miles' story.
Right. So, some would argue this might come somewhere either before or between some like the recent stuff anyway, because it would make sense. The realizations that she comes to at the end of this story would make sense as to why she does what she's doing in Miles' book.
Champion.
Right. So, without giving too much away, it's a pretty cool read, I thought. But I was like, it was cool to see, an interaction, whatever it might be, with Starling and Spider and Spider-Man.
Right.
Peter.
Interesting about it is that we get a little bit more backstory on Starling, believe it or not. Even though we learned a little bit about her in the pages of Miles's book. We find out that she's apparently a talented artist. And that spoke to me when I read that he got that the Vulture got his granddaughter some nice, like, special fancy sketching pencils. I'm like, oh, that's something I always wanted. I actually had to buy that for myself. Right. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that was a nice little story. It was Saladin Ahmed and I believe Aaron Kuder on art. Correct. So that was a nice little addition. It's not every day that we read these backup stories, but it seemed like these backup stories had purpose.
I usually try to check them out just to see if there's anything. Like, sometimes there's something that might become, sometimes it might be something that's coming off of the main story, or sometimes, as these things tend to go, they're just like kind of one-offs or stuff they already had or whatever the case may be. Like, some of these might be that just as other stories that have nothing to do with nothing. Like these, right. This is the latter case, but they were still fun to read. Although we don't know whether that Starling thing is going to come up into something. I mean, we could infer that it's like we just said, and it kind of infers her choices now, and probably going forward in Miles' book. But we don't necessarily know.
All right, so I think we're done with amazing.
Yeah, we pretty much did that one.
What's next?
You know what? Let's go ahead and do the X stuff. To go ahead and get that out of the way. So we'll
Sure.
go to Wolverine number 6 first, since that is the next chapter.
Wolverine. Allow me a moment. Allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm pulling up this book because, this week, because of several things going on, including virtual New York Comic Con, led to a little bit of a scramble in getting our review copies this week. I neglected to actually bring my physical copies that I did buy and read last night with me today, so it's just taking me a minute to pull this book up. But yeah, we are officially in part 3 of 22 of 10 of Swords. And and this book is by Ben Percy and drawn by Victor Bogdanovich, and I believe it's Matt Wilson on colors. This book opens with Wolverine having a tete-a-tete with Krakoa, because this is the immediate aftermath of the declaration of the Contest of Champions, for lack of a better term, between Arakko and Krakoa. In the
Or
previous
some would say
chapter,
the best term.
Right. And Wolverine is basically confronting Krakoa regarding what he believes is Krakoa's willful acts with regards to creating the circumstances that led to this confrontation between Arakko and Krakoa. We are led down, a little bit of a history path through both this issue and the other Ben Percy penned issue, that is, his written issue, that being the next chapter. But in this issue, Wolverine is starting on his quest for the Muramasa Blade, or at least the current incarnation of a Muramasa Blade. What I didn't realize is that there have been a couple Muramasa Blades in existence.
Right.
I always thought there was just one, but I guess that had gotten destroyed at some point, and now they are looking for the latest incarnation of it.
And I guess there's a little bit of a, before you go any further, there's a little bit of a time skip between the two chapters, if you kind of think about it, considering where he is and what happens. But yeah, go ahead.
Right. Well, I mean, this issue deals with, we get a little bit of an interlude with the Silver Samurai, of all people, who is annoyed that, and I love the little writing here that Percy puts in, that Wolverine picks up on the fact that the Silver Samurai is annoyed that there is a contest of champions with swords, and he is not invited.
Right.
And he is not happy about it. And Wolverine's just like, you know what? I need a lead on the Muramasa Blade. You're going to help me find it. The rest of this issue is really our introduction to Solem, who is one of the children of Arakko, not one of the 4 original horsemen of the apocalypse, though. And he is someone who has a very contentious relationship with one of the original children of Apocalypse War, Flaming Head Lady. And I know she has a name. But there's so many new names in this. It's hard to keep track. It's Flaming Head Lady. It is actually...
I mean, yeah, they pretty much call her War for throughout this whole thing without using her, whatever her other real name is. But
Right. So, but if I'm not mistaken, they do use her real name at some point. But in any event, there is a then and a now in this issue. And it's a little confusing because we get a then and we get a guest appearance by a long-lost character, one of the loves of Wolverine's life, and it threw me for a loop, saying, mild spoiler alert. Like I said, this is a then portion of the book, which means we're going back into time, going back to when Wolverine essentially had the Muramasa Blade forged for the first time. And we see Mariko Yashida, and it, like I said, threw me for a gigantic loop. I was like, Mariko's here.
Yeah, what? I thought that same thing. I was like, wait, huh? But it makes sense given what you end up reading.
Exactly, and we get a data page that fills us in on what the conversations are that Wolverine had in the past as he was on his quest to have the Muramasa blade forged for the first time. And as Roddykat mentioned, we got a skip forward back into the now where Wolverine is on his quest to gain the current form of the Muramasa blade, or at least find Muramasa, and he finds himself confronting Muramasa, but he is in need of help, and Wolverine apparently is currently burned to a bony crisp.
Yeah, for Wolverine, that is, which partially doesn't make any kind of sense, but given it's Wolverine, it makes all the sense in the world. He pretty much does a reverse Terminator 2.
Right.
But we don't necessarily, well, we pretty much see part of that, but we don't see how he got to that point until the next book that we're about to talk about, which I guess we can pretty much go on into that.
Oh, absolutely. It's the next chapter.
Yeah, which is X-Force number 13. And it continues. I basically it's X-Force part 4, but Wolverine part 2, essentially.
Right.
Where Wolverine is still looking for the blade, for the Muramasa blade, and we find out in that issue again he's still in like Agent 7 said, his bony state.
It's the same creative team, which is funny.
Exactly. It's
the exact same creative team: Ben Percy, Victor Bogdanovich, and Matt Wilson.
So clearly things are going on here. Which actually, hopefully when we get past Marauders, I remember this point that I was going to make, but I'll come back to it later. But yeah, it's pretty much a continuation of that. And the short strokes is that he does end up getting the Muramasa blade. He ends up meeting up with Solom, and they don't fight because they're going to have a fight later on. But there's also a price that was given that we don't get to see, but we also, there's also a little bit of a team up between them. But we also find out the current state of Muramasa and his employment, and who he's been employed by to get these blades done. And Wolverine's continue, as I said, the quest to get them from him.
Right, and what Roddykat is leaving out is that essentially the price he has to pay is because there's 2 Muramasa blades.
Right.
And that's kind of like the big weird twist in this issue, that so both Solom and Wolverine are looking for a Muramasa blade, not the Muramasa blade.
Right, because it turns out he just made 2 more in place of the one that was,
Exactly. So that's where we have these 2 characters, basically I guess they're on parallel quests, because it seems like the characters of the children of Arakko are on the same quest that the X-Men are on.
Right. And yeah, I guess the part that, well, no, we did talk about the other part, but yeah. So, and I guess the only other part about this that was left out was the fact that, and I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see some kind of katana type situation happening. Because we find out also in this issue that not only did Muramasa make these blades, but he actually imbued them with his sword, and that also comes to the part because through the ritual, that is shown in this issue.
Right. My understanding is that the original Muramasa, and they kind of referred to it in the Wolverine issue previously, the original Muramasa held a piece of Wolverine's sword. But that was destroyed, and now these have been, he's made new swords basically for this story. Right.
So, needless to say, Wolverine's got his swords. He made it back to Krakoa. He put it down, and that was the other thing that's kind of tripped me out, because we saw Magic put down her sword because she was the first one, because she's always down to fight.
She already had it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. She didn't have to go on a quest. She's just hanging out, waiting for everybody.
Right. Else. She was like, all right, let's do this. Clink, put the soul sword down. And then everybody else has got to go get theirs, which means she's been pretty much waiting there at the thing until everybody gets there. So, and this is
days
Right. So she's been, and you know, she's kind of impatient person. So that's kind of a funny thought in itself. It's like, all right, can we finally hurry up and get this over with? Because I just imagine that. But regardless, we see Wolverine getting there, putting his sword down, and he's there chilling now, which leads us into the next story, the next book, Marauders number 13.
I was about to say, just hold the thought. You know, I mentioned this earlier. What always makes me laugh about this, and you know, more and more, I think we're going to see more of the RPG aspect. You know, that I know that Tini Howard is such a fan of. This is something that she's done in Excalibur, and I believe she's brought it to Ten of Swords. Roddykat may not be so keen on my take on these aspects, but I think we're going to see more.
No, I'm happy for it. No, I appreciate it.
We're going to see more questing. You know, all of these. You know, basically the challenge has been put forth, but all of the individual sword wielders are on their own individual quests to gain the swords that they need for this tournament. So we have seen one such quest, and now we are about to see a second.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my thing was like, yeah. I mean, this is not unlike any. Like, sure, it is that what everybody is saying, but it's also like, yeah, what this is kind of thing that happens in comics anyway. A lot of times, like, hey, here's the thing they got to do, and now they got to go either find somebody or find a thing or do a thing, and you know, their own, you know, their journey to do that. So
yeah, the reason why I specifically think of role playing is because they're literally looking for objects of power or items. You know, it's so classic. Like I can imagine all of my junior high school. Obviously, we were all in junior high school playing D&D. You know, and that was essentially like one of those classic quests. Like we're all on the quest for treasure, and it's got a hidden weapon or a hidden gem that's going to do something cool. We got to go get it. You know.
Right. And if you're keeping count, this is basically Agent 70 saying that he really wants to do, if he's not already in one already, and I know we've talked about it behind the scenes before, but he really wants to do, he wants to do another campaign really, really soon, somehow, some way. I feel like that's what he's underlying saying.
That's funny.
We had talked about it. We had actually talked about it, and we talked about various aspects of maybe possibly trying to doesn't hold us to anything. But I'm just saying we talked about it behind the scenes.
Yeah, don't be surprised if it ever happens.
Right, exactly.
It is not something that's out of the realm of possibility. That is not even a joke.
Yeah, exactly. There are avenues and there are ways to do it, and so it's just a matter of time and actually figuring out all that kind of stuff. But regardless, like I said, you know, we'll see how that works out. Marauders number 13, though, we pivot to Storm on Krakoa, you know, being kind of pensive because she knows she has to go and get her sword. She's visited by one Kate Pride, you know, longtime friends, who, you know, knows her well enough to know when she's bothered about something, when she has bothered about something she has to do. And they talk for a little bit, and then Storm goes off to Wakanda. And I think we do get like little, you know, vignettes of, or at least flashes of, you know, of Storm's history during the course of this also. So I'll just go ahead and put that out there and before it actually comes up. But she goes to Wakanda. She meets up with Queen Ramonda and Shuri because T'Challa's not there. He's off probably, you know, fighting Moon Knight or whatever the case, you know.
Yeah. Avengers stuff.
Exactly. And she, you know, she pretty much lays down what's going on in Krakoa and what it means for the world. And they were like, yeah, sure, we'll help you any way we can. You can get the finest swords or anything else. But this one was like, no, I need something particular. And this one sword has some meaning that she needs for Wakanda in general, as stated in the story. And that is where they're like, no, we can't give you that one. And even if
they were Meatloaf, they would do anything for Storm, but
right, because you know
that.
Nice, nice. Shout out to Meatloaf, but because you know they have a history, but you know Storm being a former queen of Wakanda and you know goddess in Kenya, wherever she was from. all of that plays into that. But of course, this one sword that means so much to Wakanda can only be given and used and touched by T'Challa, who's not there. So they're trying to get her to like, no, just wait for T'Challa and we'll see what he says, because we can't do this because it would cause a whole lot of mess within Wakanda if we just let that roll. And as you would expect, it causes Storm, who's on a time crunch, to take an action. Like, you could see it coming a mile away.
Of course.
But, and it's still kind of sad to see, because like, oh man, she's... So if folks did not know, like, her and T'Challa's been kind of mending fences for the last few years. Like, they're not necessarily getting back together, but you can tell just things are still there. Well, this pretty much kind of messes that up. So, but anyway, she goes through the course of this, and she's talking to Shuri, and they're having a chat, because Shuri pretty much feels like she knows kind of what's up, and she does, because she could tell, she knows Storm well enough to know, a few different things. So they talk.
It's not going to be exactly no. It's not going to be the answer that she walks away with. So. Exactly.
So even at the end of their conversation, you could tell that she kind of knows what the deal was, and sure enough, later on in the story, when Storm goes to enact the plan to get the blade without their consent, we see them meet up again, and there's a little fight, and and then we see that get dealt with, and T'Challa finally comes back, and they have some words, and surprisingly enough, well, actually not surprisingly enough, because I feel like if it all being told, if it just went by the numbers and T'Challa was there, it would have been like, yeah, T'Challa would pretty much do anything for Storm, even that, and surely enough, he did kind of begrudgingly, but it was because of the way she went about it. Because once he got there, she was already in the midst of stealing the thing.
Well, she had already stolen it.
Right, exactly. She had already stolen it and was pretty much out the door.
Get away with it.
Right. She was pretty much out the door until he pops in and and then they talk and they let her go with it. But at the end of this story, they're like, all right, kill that gate. She can't come back here no more without us, without our consent. Right. Which also kind of made me think, it was like, well, wait, how are they going to get the blade back then? I mean, I know she could just fly it back, whatnot, but I was like, well, that would make it easy for them to bring it back if she just had a gate. But I understand why they did that, because nope, exactly. we're cutting her off because she clearly, and there was this whole underlying thing of one side believing that the other side is not, well, that the one side is thinking singularly in their thought pattern when the other side is not understanding what they're trying to do. Basically, it's like Storm felt that they didn't understand the gravity of the situation and how much she needed it, but she was also desperate enough to just go ahead and steal it anyway. And the other side was like, no, this is something that could wait. They think that Storm, they figured they knew the gravity of the situation was heavy on Storm, because otherwise she wouldn't have been there. But at the same time, she was like, well, just wait for T'Challa, and we could sort it out then. But they didn't realize, or it wasn't understood that, like I said, one, Storm is under time constraints.
What's safe underestimated, and that's generally how these things go when you're trying to ask for a favor, and they're like, no, the person in charge is out of the office, and essentially you're just stuck waiting, or you just take it. And at least fortunately for Storm, she was in the position to take it. I wanted to make just a couple of quick notes. One, I love that we have animated Storm in white versus comic book Storm in black. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna, we're about to, it's about to go down. I'm putting on the black uniform.
That is the thing with because Magneto did the exact same thing. Like, well, we're going into some shit. We change clothes appropriately.
Exactly. So that was funny. And the second thing is, Storm pulls off a Raiders of the Lost Ark switch. And if you remember, what I'm talking about is Indy switching, not necessarily using a weight, but essentially doing the same kind of switch.
Right.
To fool security protocols that are in place. So I kind of got a kick out of that, even though Shuri obviously interrupts at that point. But had Shuri not correctly deduced what was going to happen, she would have pulled off the indie switch.
Yeah,
and I kind of got a kick out of that.
So shout out to Vita Alaya who wrote this issue. Like I hate it. At a certain point, I was like, oh god, I know where this is going, and I'm gonna hate where this is going to go. And sure enough, it did get to that point, and I kind of hated this issue for that. But I enjoyed the issue because, you know, it was a decent issue. But I kind of hated that because, like I said, knowing, you know what Aurora and T'Challa.
Wait, is this Vita Ayala's first issue on this? Like, I think she's taking this book over.
I believe it is, yeah, because she is taking over this book, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I believe this. Yeah, this is officially marks that, I guess. But yeah, knowing that T'Challa and Aurora kind of had some history, and you know they had gone all ways to try to mend that in the past few years, and now this breaking that is kind of a bummer. But you know, in service of the story, I guess it kind of had to happen this way. You know, and I'm sure, and I know there's a big Storm story coming up next year, supposedly, as we talked about in the past couple of weeks. So maybe some of that's gonna actually come back up during the course of that. But I guess we'll see if and or when that happens. That being said, though, unless you got something else you want to bring up about it.
No, only that I was looking for the Storm Thunderbird 2-pack, the original Storm, because I was looking at the costume, like, oh man, that'd be a nice costume, but I really want the OG Storm, and it was sold out everywhere I looked around New York City, all the Targets. It's just annoying.
Gotcha.
Just annoying. I went out on Long Island, sold out, and then I saw today that somebody posted a picture from one of the Targets I checked, and it looks like they got it back in stock, and I'm sure they're all gone by now. It's just annoying.
Understood.
It's
all right. So
good luck. I was about to say good luck to you, Roddykat, if you were going to look for that in your local Targets. I hope you find it.
Yeah. Remind me after the show, and I'll make a note of it. Cause yeah, you mentioned that up. I totally forgot. That being said,
right. That's 10 of Swords for this week, right?
That is 10 of Swords for this week. So we will move on. We'll do one more book, and then we'll go rapid fire. Which you want to do, Miles?
I was about to say we could do Champions #1 and Miles and Magnificent Miss Marvel all in kind of one swoop because they're all interrelated in a sense.
Some more than others, but sure. All right, you want to do?
Miles is a little bit more standalone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Marvel and Champions.
So sure, So I guess sure. In that case, we'll do.
So Champions if you want to do Miles, that's fine.
I mean, we could do Champions and get that out of the way. Yeah. So we'll do Champions #1, and then we'll do Champions Miss Marvel, and then we'll do Miles.
And a little blinky on me just now, so.
Yeah, you were kind of breaking out for a second.
Yeah, just do me a favor. We're doing Champions.
Yeah.
We're doing okay. All right. So let me put up Champions real quick.
So while he's putting that up, I'll just start off by saying that. So this is Champions #1, and for some strange reason, I thought this book had already come out, but in a sense it did because we did get a review copy like a while ago because of you know COVID. The book didn't actually come out when it was supposed to back in April, and this is the Outlawed storyline. Just to make sure people know about that part. So and this is coming after Outlawed Outlawed one shot #1. This is also Eve Ewing writing Champions. So I was, you know, ready for a treat. But I already realized in reading this issue that I'd already read this like a while ago. But that being said, so this comes after Outlawed #1 and Kamala making her statement as you know, as Miss Marvel. You know, and from that and the whole Kratos situation is what it is. So at this point, Kratos already out there doing their thing. You know,
I was about to say, bear in mind for people who are not up to speed, Outlawed is essentially a younger hero's version of Civil War.
Pretty much.
So you can go on.
Yeah, that's pretty much short stroke. There's no infighting in between them, though, or at least not yet. Or maybe because And some of the other books from Outlawed have yet to see the light of day, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, coming off of that, and the Kamala's law was in place, which and because basically there was an attack at Kamala's school, and the Chambers got involved, and Kamala got hurt, and we see from I think the last issue of Miss Marvel, her uh, dipping in and out of consciousness and trying to recoup from that, getting to this point, to where she in Champions #1, where she as Miss Marvel makes she did that in Outlawed, I think, but she makes a public statement, and then unbeknownst to the rest of the champions, she makes this statement publicly. And then this issue finds the champions meeting in an underground spot, because, as we found out in this issue, that a couple of their members had already been taken by Cradle, and their mobile base had also been taken, so they have to kind of meet somewhere in secret. But they get found out by Cradle, and there's a little bit of a fight, and some of them escape, some of them don't. And we find out there's a couple of members of the team that are not there, that being their vision because of what happened, initially. And also Ironheart Riri Williams, for whatever odd reason that I forget. And I feel like that's something that kind of happened also. And we will also come to find out why she wasn't there. But she wasn't there, but her tech was there, as this book says, and that is how Kamala is talking to the team, because she was still at the time in the hospital, but before they got interrupted by Cradle. So that fight happens. A couple of people gets taken, and then we find out at the end of this issue who may or may not have something to do with them being found, and everything that just happened in the issue happening. We don't necessarily know that, but we just know we see a figure. One of the figures that I just mentioned happens to show up at the end of this issue, in the shadows,
Mm-hmm.
and there's the implication that person may have something to do with them getting caught, and it would kind of we don't know their motivations behind it if that is the case, but they would have the means to be able to do, to put them out there and not get caught, because
Exactly.
no one knows where this person is. So,
I have a weird. I guess it's not a weird parallel, but there's a parallel between between some of these stories and some older Avengers stories,
of course.
and I'm just gonna have to file that away for safekeeping.
Yeah, and you're probably not wrong, because exactly. There's been a couple of times in Avengers history where it's like, one of the team has portrayed them for some odd reason, including an annual or two that I can think of.
Right. Or even the or even what essentially happens to the team because of a particular character's programming. Let's put it that way.
Sure. Yeah.
That's even more classic Avengers story. So
Well,
I'll leave it at that. I guess we can transition over to Miss Marvel to kind of get the next continuation of the story. So this issue of Miss Marvel, the Magnificent Miss Marvel, finds Kamala out of the hospital now, and she is making her way back to school, and she gets a greeting that she was definitely not expecting. Not the worst kind of greeting, but definitely a greeting she was not expecting.
Nor kind of didn't seem like she wanted either.
Right, and she's definitely not in the mood for it, given the current climate that they're operating in the sense that these Cradle agents are on the lookout for all superhero teens, and they have established regular patrols in apparently every school, not just Miles' school, but also in Kamala's school.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of a reckoning when it comes to Kamala and Bruno, but they are interrupted by global warming and weather, drastic, catastrophic weather that strikes Jersey City, because everybody can experience catastrophic weather nowadays. And Cradle decides to at least try to make a move on her, and they are rebuffed. And but they are operating with some intelligence, in the sense that they have researched Kamala, and they do have, or they at least try to make moves with certain countermeasures against her powers, but they underestimate her current capabilities, and they also underestimate the citizens of Jersey City and their support of Kamala Khan, of Ms. Marvel, that is.
Right. Well, a couple of things to know. I was well, one, the whole rain thing, I thought that was kind of symbolic, because, like you, well, at least I felt it could have been. I doubt if it was, that could have been coincidental, but the whole throughout her, Kamala and Bruno's talk about their personal life, it was like that could have been some symbolism there, but more likely not. But when Kratos came a calling, I was thinking, just like with Miles, because you remember, I don't know if you remember, but in Miles' book, when they met up with him, they set it up. They basically, it was a sting operation to get to try to find, maybe it was just him, or it was just teen heroes in general, but they were basically looking for folks, and they set up they basically set up a sting operation to make it look like somebody was getting robbed. In Miles's case, and then that's when they kind of struck, because they set it up. In this case, I was thinking it was going that same route, but apparently it wasn't, or it doesn't seem that way. It just so happened that, hey, the rain caused the thing to happen, and as Dum Dum said, it was like, yeah, we're monitoring everything. Which actually, on that point, one of Dum Dum's agents was like, hey, here's some profiling we could do, and we could possibly, try to find her this way, because they were specifically looking for Miss Marvel, because her being the leader of the champions, would seemingly squash the whole thing with with the resistance. And Dum Dum was like, let me stop you there. We're not going to do that. I got my means, but we're not going to do that. So that was a thing that was, there was an air out there already in this, from the whole profiling thing, but it was nice to see that addressed, I guess, and that they didn't go down that road. But regardless, there was another point I was going to make into this, but I don't remember what it is. But yeah, so basically the whole thing with like you said, that they had some intel on her, and some of it kind of worked out, and some of it didn't, because she still got away.
Right. I just had to do a quick Google and looking at Dum Dum's Wikipedia. I'm like, oh, Dum Dum's still an LMD. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't think they were gonna, make that, but I kind of figured it was like, well,
yeah, he's been dead since '66, according to Original Sin. Remember that?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So seeing Dum Dum now, and obviously I don't think she knows. Kamala knows, because she knows who Dum Dum is, clearly, because she's a fangirl on most of the people of the world.
Exactly.
So,
and he's a classic. I was about to say he's a classic Shield agent.
Exactly. So she knew who he was, but I don't think she knew about that particular wrinkle about him. And they're not really, they're actually not even saying anything about it. They're just like, I don't know if that's even going to come up, but they haven't said anything about it. But it's clearly the case that he is still in MD, unless something happened, which I doubt.
Right.
So, excuse me. So that is pretty much, unless we're missing something, that's pretty much the crux of Ms. Marvel.
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So now we're going to pivot.
It does feel like Dum Dum trying to track down Godzilla. If you remember the old late '70s, early '80s Godzilla comic book.
Vaguely. I don't think I ever read them. The only one I remember is, I think, one was Red Ronin and Godzilla fought.
Yeah, that was a later issue, I think.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
And man, that issue. Anyway, I was thinking of Avengers a couple of issues of Avengers where Red Ronin shows up. They should bring back Red Ronin.
George Perez art too.
Yeah. So, but anyway, y'all can go check that out. Anyway, we're going to move on to Miles Morales Spider-Man number 19 real quick. This is a potential click of the week for me.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, not weirdly enough, but I don't know.
Well, it's definitely not what we thought this was going to be
Right.
when we initially were confronted with the story of the um, evaluator, the assessor.
Right.
We did not think that this is where they were going with that, and that I
But
think is credit to, but that's a credit to Saladin Ahmed's story,
right.
where
True.
we were definitely kind of taken off guard because of that. Go ahead.
There's true, but I'm thinking because yeah, they did kind of the creative team did well to separate the fact that the accessory
Hide
was
that.
around.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, the accessory was around, and then here's ultimatum over here. But you kind of I felt like there was an air of they were working together, even if it wasn't like. Granted, we can say that now because all of that kind of bears out in this issue. But I feel like somewhere in the last couple of issues, or in the last few issues, at least before the outlaw stuff happened, I feel like, especially I guess that was that issue where Ultimatum and Prowler were talking. I feel like some of that might have been alluded to, but maybe not. And this could have very well been that line. Nah, we're just pretty much telling folks right here and now. And like you said, it is still a surprise. But at the same time, I feel like there's something in there that kind of lends itself to that, like we could have known.
Right.
But
I was about to say part of it is definitely the pandemic messing up our reading schedule. So there are certain things that probably would have played better had we been reading them in real time under a real time release schedule.
Like Outlawed.
What was that?
Like Outlawed.
Exactly, just like Outlawed. But as Roddykat was mentioning, the what we find is there's a couple things going on. One, Miles has been captured, but we also find from the last end of the last issue have Miles being defeated by his or at least being defeated by his clone.
Right.
And we get the kind of big bad behind everything. And this is as Roddykat mentioned, we sort of know, but I mean, we sort of suspected that this is where they were going all along. It was just a matter of how all of the dots connected, and especially with regards to the assessor. Honestly, I thought that was Mr. Negative just for a hot second.
The assessor?
Yeah, the assessor just for a hot second. Then I remember that Mr. Negative has been taken out by Sin Eater.
Right. Although, I mean, timing constraints, timing being what is it, that could have very well been the case. So, yeah, and this could have been before that happened or whatever, because who even knows at this point when this is taking place. But yeah, so we've come to find out that while Miles and Uncle Aaron the Prowler are both captured, because, that happened a few issues back, actually, are caught, and we get the big monologue by Ultimatum and his plans, which still feels kind of small potatoes, as I say in my notes. Like it's I don't know, weird. But knowing who we found out who this is, which I thought was a different person, because here I'm thinking it was so let me back up again and get my thoughts together. So Miles fought what we thought to be we thought to be his duplicate. Right. So I was thinking in itself, the reveal of that ended up going to be this universe's 616 version of Miles Morales. That's what I thought who somehow got spider powers, because you see the reveal and it looks like Miles but with a scar. So you're assuming it's like wait, that's not him, but the Miles Morales, as we know from Spider-Man, I believe, did not necessarily look exactly like this Miles. So, cut to the Ultimatum doing his plans, and saying what his plans is, and giving his big reveal and blah 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 blah. He unmasks himself, and we come to find out that hold on for a second. Let me make sure.
What just happened?
I don't know. It just kicked me from the call and
did it to me too.
Yeah, and just cut the call. That was weird. I thought it was an internet issue.
Me too. I just went black.
Yeah, like it was like it froze and then it was like went bloop and kicked us off from the call. So I don't know. Maybe that was a Skype thing. Maybe they just didn't want us to talk about Miles Morales.
Are we live still?
Oh, you know what?
Two?
Let me
Are we on
check that.
Twitch?
Hold on, let me check. I'm gonna check real quick.
That was weird.
That was
Because I
really
thought it
weird.
was me. I was like, did my computer finally bite the dust?
Nope, we're still live.
Oh, nice. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, well, luckily there's, you know, if it was like an OBS or something issue, which it wasn't, but if it was that, it would have restarted itself.
All right. Well, we are back.
Yes.
We are talking about Miles.
Well, for those, yeah, for those in the live recording, for the audio recording, we never left because you know, it is what it is on that one. So yeah, we're still talking about Miles Morales. But like I was saying, so the big reveal was that the Miles Morales of 616 is the Ultimatum.
I think we did that already, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure. I was under the impression, and maybe it might have, but I was under the impression that it was like, because if you see Ultimatum is basically Hank Pym's Ultimate Universe suit, but with Cap's shield.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was something from Spider-Man, because I never read Spider-Man, either one of them.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, so that's why it wasn't familiar to me. I've been actually meaning to go back and read both of those.
That makes perfect sense. Because
Right.
I'm like, no, we know who this is. It's really more about, for me, it was more about how this was all connected, because the cloning I mean, you know, come on, I can't help but think that if it's a Spidey story and there's cloning, there's a Jackal somewhere, right?
So I kind of allude to that in my notes. I was like, it's always clones or doppelgangers with the Spider folks. So basically, yeah, the clone, the Spider-Man that Miles was fighting in the last issue, ended up was a clone, apparently. Right. And I'm assuming it was a clone that was made by the Accessor. Like, yeah, we can kind of assume that it might have something to do with using the Jackal's process or something. But there's an assumption that the Accessor did all of this because they took Miles' DNA to make it. And matter of fact, Miles kind of comes to that realization during the course of this issue, while Ultimatum is monologuing. So the Accessor took his DNA, made this clone. They fought last issue, but all of the stuff that kind of comes together in this issue with hey, who's behind it and why.
Right. I would add a few things. One, some of the things that were done done to the Ultimate characters revolving around Miles Morales for to integrate him into the 616 as a result of Secret Wars.
Yes,
is undone here, both for the Prowler, aka Uncle Aaron, and for Miles, and more than likely it's going to happen to his parents as well.
Oh, Rhea and JD,
yeah, they're probably going to be forced to reckon with their past life or their alternate lives in the Ultimate Universe. So that's one of the important things that comes up here, and we find out what Ultimatum's primary goal is.
Right.
His goal is to eject Miles from this reality.
But not just Miles, everybody that also, Uncle Aaron, his parents, everybody that probably Gonki too, I guess at that point, and everybody, I guess, Bombshell would be a part of that also.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyone, like you said, that's a big umbrella for them. That's a big tent.
Right.
Characters that were integrated into the mainstream 616 from the Ultimate Universe.
Right. But so not only did he want to do that, but he also wanted to take over New York. That was the small of it, but his other goal was to get rid of Miles, this other Miles, and everything. So
on the Spider-Man series, the two Spider-Man series.
Sure.
More so the second one, but definitely both of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have to go back and read both of those.
Delve into the identity of the Miles Morales.
Right, that part I did know, but like I said, I just didn't know that he was Ultimatum all that time, because I didn't read it. And I guess, and this was pretty much Miles' first time meeting up with him, I guess, since then, if that's the case. Or because it made it sound like they never met before.
I don't think they've met like this. I think they might have met in costume.
Right.
They definitely have met in costume, I think, because I think he knew who he was.
Right.
Like, oh, he was like, "Oh, it's you, Ultimatum," but he didn't know who he was underneath the mask. So.
Right. So that being said, we get all of that, and there was a couple of good panels where, Miles' parents get attacked by Ultimatum's men, although for some strange reason I thought that was like some offshoot of Cradle. I'm like, wait, did they find out that Miles was Spider-Man and it went after his parents? But no, come to find out it was Ultimatum going after him, and they dealt with that, and even was like, look, we know where you are, we coming after you, and Rio was pissed. So you love to see that, so it was like the Davis Morales clan was like, yeah, we about to come for you, and then that's when Prowler does this thing, and they escape after, which you kind of figure was going to happen, because like after a big villain monologue, of course there's either a fight and or an escape.
And what's funny is that I wonder if the 616 Miles underestimated his father's doppelganger, because his father's doppelganger from the Ultimate Universe, or at least the way he was recreated in the 616, is a SHIELD agent.
Exactly.
So, they can't just send anybody after him. So.
Right. Yeah, because he clearly was like, well, oh wait, how in the world did they even like? No, like JD ain't new to this.
that was the feeling I had when I read that.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that.
There's an interlude here with regards to the Cradle agents who are locking up Miles's classmates, and Cap bails them out because his congresswoman is also the same congresswoman that represents the school around where the Brooklyn Visions Academy is located. So I kind of got a kick out of that whole interlude, and Captain America sticking his nose into.
I was kind of surprised by that.
And he's gonna be on the cover. He's on the cover of next issue. So
exactly. So more than likely there's gonna be a team up between him and Miles again. Another team up between him and Miles, because they've teamed up before. But
right.
So and then there's this issue. We like I said, Prowler and Miles escape, but they run into some issue because they were going to go and look for JD and Rio before they ended up coming to where where Ultimatum was. But they run into a bit of trouble, and we'll see how that plays out next issue.
Alrighty.
That being said, I guess unless you got another book you want to pull out, we can go.
Spinning it up. We've been at this for a while.
Hit it.
Here we go.
I got a few books, so unless you want to go ahead and go.
I think we've got some parallels too. But go
a couple, yeah. Oh, you want me to go? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. Black Widow #2, which I believe you did read.
Yes.
So, Clint and Bucky find out where Ned is, but they were like, well, we can't just go in there, so we need to find out what's what. So Clint just kind of offers himself to go and talk to her and see where she's at and see if there's any signs of her, being undercover or anything like that. And they kind of find out it's like, no, this is pretty much her life now, and she seems happy, and they don't really know what to do, but they're just like kind of letting it be his thing. And it's also worth noting that everyone in Nat's new life is named after people in her old life. But also, we get to find out that Arcade we knew Arcade was working for some folks, but he's also not liking his job because it's not the usual way that he's used to doing things.
He's usually just trying to kill the people that are in his traps.
Exactly. But while recording it all the while or something like that. It's basically like almost like the, this world's version of Mojo, something like that. But regardless, so they pretty much are at this point, what's the movie I'm looking for? It's just one or two movies that I'm usually looking for. Is either that one Jim Carrey movie or this where
he's Truman Show?
Yeah, Truman Show. It's kind of a Truman Show situation with Nat, except for she's got amnesia or whatever the case is going on, and she doesn't know anything about her whole life, but she still has her old skills. And at the end of this issue, she finds herself, you know, making making a device that she wouldn't know. She doesn't seem to know that she knows how to make. But also, we get a glimpse of somebody that's probably going to show up in a movie. And if that person is who I think it is,
Yep.
yeah, it's someone that's going to show up that is also part of Nat's past. That gets.
I kind of got the just as a quick aside, I got that idea when they were showing the silhouettes,
mm-hmm.
and I saw that character silhouette. I was like, oh, there he is. I know who that is.
So someone from Nat's past who is also probably going to who is also showing up in the movie, definitely was cameoed in this issue. So we'll see what comes of that next issue. Swordmaster number 11. Did you read that?
Nope.
Okay, so we basically found out that well, at the end of the last issue, Lin Lai and Shang Shuang, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, Shang Shang.
Regardless, I'm not reading the book, so.
Yeah, so regardless, we go to her clans that go to see the head of her clans, which happens to be her grandmother. But also, the head of the clan is very powerful because the place that they went to was getting attacked, and this person just cleaned house last issue. But now this issue is pretty much the clan leader, the grandmother, telling Lin Lai that, hey, our three clans were supposed to, guard. We have these, items of power, and we're supposed to be tasked with guarding the body of this, I guess the Chinese god of war, which was separated in three parts. And she pretty much takes this episode and says, this issue, and pretty much lays that out for him, and that he was also lied to because his original mission was to try to find his dad, who sent him the sword and this orb that he's been holding on. But come to find out that was a ruse by Chen Yu, who is the said god of war, to get the sword and to get the rest of his body back, because Lin's group, or Lin's ancestor, was charged with guarding the head, but now that that's not the case, that the head is looking for the rest of the body, which is being guarded by these other two groups. So that's pretty much what happens in that issue. The Rise of Ultraman number 2. Are you reading that?
Nope.
As a matter of fact, you let me know. You just let me know when there's something else. I figure I can look, nope. But I'm also doing some typing. But so at the end of last issue, Shin and, after a misunderstanding, Shin and the Ultraman alien end up going into a bond together, but it doesn't quite work out, or it doesn't quite go as planned, because the Ultraman alien was hurt because, one, from being shot by Shin and past actions. But this issue is pretty much them trying to come to an understanding, and also the Kiki and the captain trying to figure out what's going on, because in the outside world, Shin has been pretty much in stasis for like damn near a day. So they're trying to figure out what's going on and what's going on with USP and why all the secrecy. And they get into a little issue of trouble that causes an issue for one of them at the end of this issue. And here comes the fun block. Transformers Back to the Future number 1. Yes, folks, another one of these. Great Scott, another crossover, another figure to consider. The Decepticons are somehow in Hill Valley trying to figure out a way to beat the Autobots. They, of course, come across Marty's first trip in the DeLorean, in the mall, and the was it the Iranians or whoever it was?
I think so.
Yeah, of course, that wouldn't probably play right now, but, they don't necessarily mention them by name. They just say the terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
Which they did back then.
No, I think Libyans.
The Libyans. There we go. Yes.
I think they were Libyans. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. But regardless, that wouldn't necessarily play right now. So, so they neglected and saying that part. But regardless, so yeah, the it was like Rumble and Ravage were pretty much staking out Hill Valley for some reason. They come across the Marty's first trip in DeLorean, so now and they report it back to Megatron. So now, of course, the Decepticons want the DeLorean. But what ends up finds out, and you can kind of pretty much guess, a Back to the Future thing happens. There was a Van Halen reference, which weirdly enough, so Rip Eddie. But we come to find out there's a time frame, because the time difference, because it looks like it goes through Marty's first trip and then when Doc comes back. Because they do allude to, the whole thing, the whole scene where, he has a bulletproof vest and that kind of stuff. So there's that. So it's still that night after the DeLorean comes back. But Hill Valley's changed. It's under Decepticon control, and Marty, being Marty, it's like, nope, this is not right. So we got to do something about this. He does a Captain America impression, weirdly enough. And of course, at the end of this book, we see the titular Transformers DeLorean character that I think I have a pre-order in for. I'm almost certain I do at this point. That pretty much comes back to Marty and says, "Hey, Great Scott, I need your help. You gotta change the future, Marty. We gotta go back to the future." Something like that.
Cool.
Because apparently there was a change back in 1955 that caused this. So that's fun. I believe this is 4 issues, and I will be checking in on all 4 of them, or 4 or 5 of them. My Little Pony Transformers number 3. This is still a thing, folks. So this is a couple of, as per the thing, and this thing. Transformers has invaded yet another universe, and it is the universe of My Little Pony. So this is two stories with that. So, yep, still a thing. Soundwave and the tapes interrupt Fluttershy and Discord's tea party and learn the power of friendship. We also find out Cybertronians can smell, apparently. Meanwhile, Windblade meets Rainbow Dash, and they do a Superman Flash thing, meaning they have a race. And some Decepticons kind of interrupt that, and they have to deal with that, and they do. So it's cute. It's weird, but cute. And as I go to, I'm also typing as I'm doing this. Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Too Long a Sacrifice number 3. It just rolls off the tongue. This is pretty much an episode of DS9. In fact, it's familiarly so because Odo's investigation of a string of murders that's going on the base. Meanwhile, there's this big conference or something, and of course the war is going on. So there's a lot of tensions around DS9 because of things that are going on. In this particular issue, he has to work with a Beta Z Starfleet investigator. They don't necessarily get off on the right foot, but it's not as bad as what we have actually seen in the show, because this Beta Z, we see a flashback to the Jem'Hadar pretty much taking over Beta Z, looks like, which I don't remember ever was shown or said or thought about in the actual show. I don't know, but and it was a past memory, so somehow he got away from there before things actually jumped off. So there's some contention with him, and he knows who Odo is at this point, who is a member, whose race is a member, who's the ones who are guiding the Jem'Hadar. So this is pretty much around that time frame. So there's a little bit of contention there, but they go along and try to solve all the murders that's been happening so far, because, like I said, Starfleet kind of wanted a little bit more pep in the investigation that's been going on. They kind of butt heads a little bit, but they kind of get to a point, and this is the issue where at least they get a lead from Garrick that puts them on the track to kind of solving what's going on, and it has something to do with occupation and some war profiteering, as since things tend to happen in Deep Space Nine. So yeah, it is pretty much like an episode. I've been enjoying it so far, and if you're a fan of Deep Space Nine, you might enjoy it. Like, there's nothing really outstanding about it, but it's pretty much just seems like an episode of the show in comic book form. There's nothing wrong with that. Star Wars number 7. Leah sets a trap for the Empire by springing one of theirs. It appears there is more to Commander Zahara's dogged pursuit of Leia than previously known. Could this be her white whale? Who knows? A little more on Zahara's past under Tarkin is shown, and it seems like probe droids, and boy, could I not type or anything this morning? What is even going on? Probe droids are more capable than we know. Apparently, Tarkin ship has a cloaking device, which has never been seen in Star Wars. And we see where Zahara was, because it pretty much sticks to the past for a minute. We see where Zahara was when the Death Star blew up. And, Tarkin being her mentor, and was on the Death Star at the time, you can kind of see where she's now has some beef with the rebellion. Some added beef with the rebellion. We talked about that. And I think that is actually it for me.
All right. Scrolling.
I didn't get to read Far Sector number 8, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do something about that this weekend.
Number 8? Wow.
Yeah. I think they made it into an ongoing, so that was cool because it was originally a mini.
But... Gotcha. All right. We've covered the vast majority of the books that I read this week. Batman number 100 came out this week. That is the end of the Joker War. It's actually a pretty fun read. Lots of kind of classic Batman action. We get some Batgirl retaking the mantle of Oracle in this issue. Basically coordinating the fight. There is a weird development when it comes to the new character Punchline, but I think it's all part of a long game that Tinian is trying to orchestrate with the character. And I believe the character is getting a new ongoing, or at least a new limited series.
Yes.
We're getting some more development of Harley Quinn's character as an anti-hero, because she is definitely broken off from the Joker, and this is obviously a development that is coming on the heels of the character's development in the DC Extended Universe movies and animated series or whatnot. So
I was about to say, kind of thank goodness, but also, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's that. So, if you are looking for, it actually reads kind of like a classic Batman story, because it does end kind of the way a classic Batman Joker story does too, because it's a never-ending thing, despite the fact that Harley is definitely on the side of trying to end it all in one fell swoop. So there is that, and there are backup stories here that don't tie up loose ends, but definitely string things along for future storylines, much like they did in Amazing Spider-Man 49/850. Next up is Thor number 8. We directly follow up on the events of last issue with Tony Stark and Thor, and Thor putting out Tony Stark's phone number that you can still call. I think that we hear in the real world, aka what passes for the real world right now. We can call Tony Stark's number and hear a voice that complains about Thor giving out his number. But we get a little bit of a resolution on that. Also, we get some more information on some of the things that are developing with Mjolnir, and people all of a sudden being able to pick it up, and some of the ramifications that will come of that. The next story that's teased has something to do with Donald Blake, Thor's old secret identity.
There you go.
So, what's that?
No, go ahead.
All right, so that's essentially what is coming up for next issue.
Nice.
And that's it for me. Those are the last 2 books I had on my list.
I saw some flavor text on I can't remember what they call that, but on Comixology, and there was basically like an Oprah reference about this issue of Thor. You get a Mjolnir, you get a Mjolnir, and you get a Mjolnir. So I don't know what.
Right, that doesn't exactly. Right, that doesn't happen. But at the same time, that's the tease.
Right. So I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, it didn't happen. Yeah, I will probably end up catching up on Thor. So that being the case, oh, also I just want to mention real quick before we go into the thing that you mentioned something about things not being normal. There was a reference in, I believe it was this week's Miss Marvel, about there being the new normal for her in that world, and boy, does that not mirror what she pretty much said. Did mirrored what's actually going on in the real world, especially about the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week. I just adjusted Tim's click of the week because I think you had it backwards.
Oh, did I have Widow Black or something?
Yeah, you have Black Widow number 1. Number 2.
Oh wait, I thought that's what he
If you
said.
check. No, read it.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Widow
Yep.
Black and New. Okay.
No
You're right,
problem.
I did
no
have that
problem.
backwards.
Well,
Okay.
we since we were literally talking about it, we can say that Tim Dog 98's click of the week for this week is Champions number 1. So he also mentions that Black Widow 2 is a runner-up.
Right. He said he didn't finish it, but it was looking good. But yeah, both of those are pretty decent fit picks. And I guess I could have figured, because knowing Tim, I'm not saying I know him like that, but we kind of know some of his tastes in books. And I'm not surprised by Champions being that one. Shout out to Eva Ewing. It was a decent read. And for Dirt, this is actually not a surprise, but I'm kind of feeling this one to a point. Well, to a point anyway. Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Too Long a Sacrifice number 3 is Dirt's pick, and I believe he says that again, it's not trying to go over the top or reinvent the wheel. What it's trying to do is capture the feel of a classic DS9 episode, and it's doing that. Really enjoying it, and he plans to read them all when the last issue comes out. And yeah, it definitely does evoke. I think I even also said something similar in my notes that it kind of does evoke. In fact, I actually said it kind of evokes the feel of an episode. In fact, a little too familiarly in one beat, because like something that I mentioned kind of actually happened in a Deep Space Nine episode, but it kind of went different ways. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went that way, if this book ended up going that way, and I won't spoil it, but. I feel like there is something about, especially this issue and the meeting of two characters, and like, yeah, that's kind of seems like that's something that might end up being a thing that we haven't seen so far. But there we go. Do you have yours?
Yeah, I have. I can tell you what I'm considering. I can say that Batman number 100, believe it or not, is actually a fun read. Because is even despite the fact that there's obviously no finality when it comes to Batman versus Joker, the teased finality is fun, and it's just a big, it's a big event where all the Bat family gets together, and that's kind of cool. Amazing Spider-Man is also pretty good, despite the fact that Ryan Otley just kind of ruins the visuals for me every time I see his art. I know Patrick Gleason is on the next issue, so we'll see how that turns out. If that gets me a little bit more positive about the art on the book. I can tell you that I did like Champions number 1 because I did read it for the first time this week. So it was a little, it was fun. I can also say that Marauders number 13 is a great, strong candidate because of what Storm does.
Yeah.
And I will also say that, believe it, actually, it's hard to say that Wolverine and X-Force aren't one Wolverine book, like you were saying, or like you were kind of alluding to earlier. Reading them together actually is better than reading them, like taking a break between them, because they really do read much like one issue.
Right.
I think, though, that I will probably lean towards, despite a lot of the socially conscious stuff that was in Miles and Ms. Marvel and Champions, I'm probably going to go with Marauders because I thought it had the best character development of the week when it comes to Storm. And like I said, when When it gets down to it, I'm just like, all right, so we're going from animated costume to a comic book costume because it's about to get real. So
you
I'm
are
going to go
going.
with Marauders number 13.
Okay, cool. That's a pretty damn good pick. I'm not mad at you for it. Yeah, that's actually that's kind of one of my considerations also. But also like the aforementioned Miles Morales book because especially near the end where you see Miles and Uncle Aaron and you see JD and Rio's kind of like nah we're gonna come bust your ass. But also I guess should be or might not be a surprise. Transformers Back to the Future #1 is kind of a pick. And you know what? Because it was just fun. I mean, these crossovers are kind of silly at this point and borderline stupid, but they're still fun. So I think I'm actually going to go along with that actually for my pick. Transformers Back to the Future #1. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And of course the all of the references that one would make dealing with a Back to the Future story was made in the course of this issue. And I totally forgot about mentioning one part between someone gets the "Hello McFly," but it's not who you think it is, and it's kind of done into a way
Right.
which is kind of funny. So there we go. And now that's out of the way, we're going to an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
And first up, as we do every week, is the cinematic news. Warner Brothers boards feature adaptation of Black. Oh wait, of Black comic from Studio 8. Yes. So, if you remember, I know we've talked about it before, but anyway, Studio 8 announced this morning that Warner Brothers has acquired Black, the future adaptation of the Black Mask comic series from co-creator Kwanzaa Osadiafor. I'm sorry, my apologies. And Tim Smith III, or Tim Smith III. The comic is set out to explore a universe where only black people have superpowers beyond what the world believes is possible. Apparently, a former guest of this show, Brian Edward Hill, wrote the script for said treatment. The story centers around one young man who survives a violent event and realizes that he's a part of these extraordinary people, but a secret consortium wants to control his abilities and those who possess them. And he soon finds himself at the center of a war over the future of mankind itself. If you do remember, Black was a Kickstarter. Was largely was a Kickstarter pretty much, including the sequels that came after it. Now that I think were all Kickstarted. I believe Tim, I don't know if anybody else, but I know both me and Tim may have gotten in on both of those, or at least the initial one, if not, both of them or all of them, because there's been a couple of them. But congrats to that crew. Next up.
All right, next up, WB shuffles the Batman, Flash, Shazam 2, and Black Adam release dates. Warner Brothers has made significant changes to the upcoming release dates for those movies. The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, is moving from October 1st, 2021 to March 4th, 2022. Ezra Miller's The Flash moves from June 3rd, 2022 to November 4th, 2022, which was previously Shazam Fury of the Gods' date. The Zachary Levi sequel will now arrive on June 2nd, 2023. Finally, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's, I'm still calling him The Rock, Black Adam goes from debuting on December 22nd, 2021 to not having a date at all. Let us all hope we make it to the release dates of these movies.
I was about to say, you're not the only one who's no one. I don't think anybody stopped calling him The Rock to be at this point. To be honest, I still haven't watched Shazam. Have you? I think you said you had, right?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. It's bad. There's actually lots of fun stuff. It does, like the way they write him is, the way they write him accurately portrays the character, and that's what has always annoyed me about the character.
Mm-hmm. That he's a little kid in a grown man's body.
Exactly. And the reason why a lot of people like it is because it's fairly accurately portrayed, and that's one of the reasons why I don't jive with it. But at the end of the day, I think it's still well done. It's a crying shame that it's taken them this long to put together a sequel.
Well, I mean, COVID happened, so
that's
But I think the other reason why I mentioned that is because I believe I saw an article out there that there is a deleted scene that pretty much also goes to set up Black Adam in a way, from what I hear, but I don't know. So anyway, the Suicide Squad teaser footage may spoil Nathan Fillion's true character. So apparently, in that footage that came out during DC Fandom in August, it seems that there is might have been visual confirmation that Nathan Fillion, whose character has only been known as Floyd Delkin TDK up to this point, is playing someone who can remove their limbs at will. So if you know anything about DC's stupid canon, stupid roster of characters, you will have no doubt recognized this person as, or this, what I just said, as Arm Fall Off Boy.
Who?
Yes.
Who? Good gracious, man.
So yeah, you can look that up, Arm Fall Off Boy, for yourself. DC's got some very
I am
characters.
not going to try to dive into who's who.
But but regardless, they're thinking that that TDK may be a stand-in for the Fall Off Boy, and the TDK could be standing for the Detachable Kid, because they never did say what TDK stood for. They just said TDK during that whole thing. I do remember that part. And then it goes on to say that Fillion has previously commented on the possibility that he's playing in our incarnation of Arm Fall Off Boy, saying that, quote, that was never a comic I really dived into, so I really didn't know who that was that they were talking about. It certainly wasn't the name I was reading in the script. You should take that as a particular point. So I just said, yeah, go for it. Whatever you guys think is great. And I think the article writer noted that, that statement he just said means that could have been what was put in the script. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's not, that couldn't be not who he's playing,
Okay.
Because that wasn't the name he read in the script. Could suggest that they could have changed something. But regardless, we'll see if that stupidity plays out whenever that happens. Next up,
Swamp Thing infects the Flash Legends cast in waterlogged promos. The Flash and DC's Legends of Tomorrow welcome the newcomer to the CW verse, Swamp Thing, which moves to the CW from the DC Universe streaming app this past Tuesday with a 90-minute premiere episode. Did you watch it?
I did not, no.
Okay. Both promos on Twitter were captioned, "There's something in the water." Animation of vines cover the images of the Flash cast and Legends cast, along with the headline of "Beware of the Bayou." I have not watched this, but we have heard positive things about the show.
Yeah, I do recall people saying that they wish that season had lived. Well, it lived past that first season, then it was good on DC Universe, and it is pretty much still that. So it's not changing anything. They didn't change anything. Weirdly enough, I kind of want to go and watch the old Swamp Thing movie, which has nothing to do with, obviously the same character, but has nothing to do with this because it was done in the 80s and therefore totally different. And I don't think that's on, I should check. I don't think because they said the DCU is on Disney Plus on HBO Max, but I don't think they like went further with the older movies, like Swamp Thing, because that's a thing. Anywho, Batwoman Riverdale resumed production following COVID testing delay. After being paused last week, after being paused last week as a result of delays in COVID-19 testing in the Canadian province of British Columbia, production is set to continue on the CW's Batwoman Season 2 and Riverdale Season 5. Per deadline, Batwoman and Riverdale, both Warner Bros. Television productions that film in Vancouver, British Columbia, and air on the CW, have been cleared to resume production, I guess today, because this is from an article from yesterday. After receiving their respective cast and crews' delayed COVID-19 test results, and another show who also films out of there was also given the go-ahead. So, cool. Next.
All right, next up, it seems like Karan Walters, who plays Jason Todd / Robin on DC Universe's Titans, has already had a look at the upcoming Red Hood costume for Season 3 and couldn't help but share his excitement. Quote, guys, Red Hood looks so good. Walter shared on Twitter, to which many fans commented with GIFs and images featuring the iconic DC... Not iconic! DC Walters failed to share any images of the actual costume, and no official Red Hood images have been released as of yet.
There are people who like...
unlike Marvel, Marvel would have shot him already.
Yeah. There are people who like Jason Todd for some reason, so go figure. I kind of groaned at that too. I'm like, iconic, really? I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. Next up, Cars, Batwheels, stars. I'm sorry, I gotta put this together. Cars style animated series stars the Batmobile and gives its name. And as I just said, it's called Batwheels. But Batman's iconic mode of transportation.
Wait. I'm looking for the right sound effect here because honestly, that works.
Batman's iconic mode of transportation. The Batmobile will headline a new Cars-style Cartoon Network / HBO Max animated series titled Batwheels. Warner Brothers Animation dubbed Batwheels as a quote-unquote preschool animated action adventure comedy series starring the most heroic and iconic vehicles from the DC universe. The announcement also gives the Batmobile an official name, BAM. Batwheels.
Yeah.
Batwheels will star Bam alongside Bibby, the Batgirl sidekick, Red, the Redbird.
God, I can't.
Jet, the Batwing, and Buff, the Bat Truck.
Oh my God.
The full press release for Batwings can be found below in the article, should you feel inclined to read such a thing.
Gosh.
So yeah, that's a thing. That is a thing. You gotta love it.
All right, next up. Ryan Coogler, his wife Zinzi Evans, and Sev Ohanian have come aboard the adaptation of comic book series Bitterroot at Legendary Pictures. We already knew that Coogler was going to be involved as of last year's.
Pretty much.
They will lead the development of a big screen feature version of the comic book series by David F. Walker, Sanford Green, and Chuck Brown. We are fans of the series, and we are happy that this is still moving forward.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about...
I was about to say, this is the first... I was going to say, just very quickly, I wish I was at New York Comic Con right now. It would be happening this weekend. This would be the first day, the Thursday of the con, and a lot of I'm in contact with a lot of the people I would normally see anyway at the con, but there's always people that you're not personally connected to, like on social media or whatever, and you kind of wait to see them at the cons. Like I would have seen Sanford Green for like the 4th or 5th time in a row, and just and just said what's up to him because obviously he's a previous guest of the show. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's super fun to catch up with him every time I see him at the con.
Yeah,
So
no, and
shame that won't have a chance to do it this year.
yeah, Sanford Green would have also been at Heroes Con, which I would have hollered at him had that went off this year also.
Right.
So, but next up, and Zinzi Evans is Ryan Coogler's wife. I can't remember what else she does though, but yeah. Anywho, let's see. Matrix 4 moved up to Christmas 2021. Minecraft removed from the calendar. Warner Brothers has once again shifted many of its films' release dates, as we have, kind of mentioned a couple of them. I believe a couple of them were in that slate. Well, all of them, but you know what I'm saying. Shifted film's release dates in light of COVID-19's pandemic impact on production schedules and theater attendance. According to Deadline, The Matrix 4 will move from April 1st, which that's a weird date, to 2022 to December 22nd. It's my mom's birthday. Yay. 2021. This will put it against Illumination Universal's Sing 2, Sony's The Nightingale, and Paramount's Babylon over the Christmas weekend. So they're basically moving it up. And the Minecraft movie has been removed from the calendar entirely, losing its March 4th, 2022 date. Second date. Yeah. And it goes on to talk about the ones that we had already talked about previously. So, yeah. Weird. Next.
Next up, a television series and feature special based on Lumberjanes, the Eisner Award-winning Boom Studios comic book series, created by Shannon Walters, Grace Ellis, Brooklyn A. Allen, and Noel Stevenson, is evidently coming to the HBO Max streaming platform. The news comes courtesy of the Children's Media Association, which released the information for its upcoming live stream event, Radical Queer Joy, the making of LGBTQ+ children's media. Stevenson, known for her work on Netflix's She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, is slated to be one of the panelists with her background information text explaining that she recently sold an adaptation of Lumberjanes to HBO Max. According to the CMA, Stevenson will write, direct, and executive produce a feature special based on the comic, which will then be followed up by a series. Listen, I know Lumberjanes is pretty popular, so that's good. That's good for them.
Yeah, and I guess this news was met with, obviously cheers from fans of the thing, and not many people mentioning the recent issues that they had because of She-Ra and some language or whatever that got out from that. Anyway, I guess good on them for that. Amazon's Expanse to share first look at season 5, and this is news from New York Comic Con. I will point out here that, hey, if you haven't seen the Advance and you're a fan of sci-fi, you should. It's really good. And obviously some of you probably already know about the books that this streams from. Not comic, but just novels that this comes off of. Regardless, with New York Comic Con going virtual this year, Amazon Prime Video will give fans the first look at the 5th season of The Expanse on NYCC's official YouTube channel. Fans can tune in today as of this recording, Thursday, October 8th, as Dominique Tipper hosts the Expanse panel featuring the cast and creators of the Amazon series. I will probably be going to check out that said panel, maybe after this show. The full press release for the Expanse panel at New York Comic Con can be found below in this article, but again, if you listening to this show after the fact or watching as we're recording, then you will probably have seen this or will be checking this out if you're a fan. Next up.
Yeah, shout out to @MattWang97 who just tweeted me that he's pretty bummed that we're not going to have a chance to hang out at New York Comic Con this year. Now, obviously, with our busy lives, it's hard to hang out just on a regular, but it was always something to look forward to. Like, we'd always try to meet up around New York Comic Con, coordinate something.
True.
Like we see we're on the floor at the same time. So just to see what's up and see what kind of swag or cool signatures we had scored. Matt was always good at getting some cool stuff. So,
Yes, he is.
uh,
He has hooked us up on many of occasions,
oh
and you know,
yes,
so
yes.
so shout out to
All
friend
right.
of the show, Matt Wang.
Shout out to @MattWang97. Of course, I get the Doctor Who news. Doctor Who Faceless Ones animated special announces premiere date. BBC America has announced that the first 3 episodes of Doctor Who, The Faceless Ones, an animated special featuring the missing eighth serial
Yeah.
of season 4 from 1967 will premiere Wednesday, October 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by the last 3 episodes on Thursday, October 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Patrick Troughton stars as the Doctor in this lost audio footage.
I believe it's Troughton. I can't remember, but regardless, it doesn't matter. So yes, as Agent 70 says, that stuff is already out there now because um, it is the 8th.
Yeah, it premiered this week.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like all of it is out there right now. And you can go check it out if you're a Whovian or just liking some good stuff. It's not the first time they've done that. Also, there's been other episodes of lost shows that they've done because they had some of the footage they had the audio from it, but didn't have all the it wasn't made. So, notably Douglas Adams' Shara, who Douglas Adams used to write for the show apparently, which is strange but makes a whole lot of sense. Anyway. Hulu to advertise comics at the end of MODOK episodes for Marvel Comics. So Marvel has worked out a deal with Hulu for the upcoming MODOK Head Games comic book series to be promoted at the end of every episode of the stop-motion animation MODOK series currently in development. There is a graphic plan to be featured that is in this article. If you're watching the video, you can see it now. That will be featured at the end of each episode. And it's the standard, hey, if you like the show, read the graphic novel from showrunners Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom. MODOK Head Games, available where comics and graphic novels are showed. So, trying to get a little bit of synergy on there. The article goes on to say that, this happens, but it doesn't happen that often, which is true. And I think there have been cases in the past where people are like, it should happen more where, watching a movie, watching a MCU or DC movie in the theater or one of the shows and be like, hey, if you like this, then go check out the comic books, which like I said, we have seen a little bit of, just not a whole lot of.
All right, less synergy than there should be. That's really
exactly.
A lot of the times, believe it or not, a lot of times what I see is, at least my own from anecdotal and personal experience, certain comic book stores will partner with theaters when there's a big comic book movie release and hold, have like a table full of merchandise, that's related to the movie to sell. And, obviously their business cards with addresses so that they can, have people become repeat customers, hopefully. So, there's that tie-in, but that's not official. It's nice to get an official plug as part of the multimedia that's being produced off of comic book intellectual property. And I just love the fact that it's Patton Oswalt who's doing MODOK. It's just right.
This just makes way too much sense, right?
Just right, So anyway, next up is
before you go no further, I was going to mention that just like what you just said with the movies, it was like here I know there's this guy that that's usually every time I would see him pretty much every time there's a movie premiere, like for a comic book movie, and from his shop, and they be doing like giveaways, and it's like, hey, trivia, and you win this comic book or you win this poster or something like that, and sometimes he'll have some stuff in the back, but mostly it's like trivia right before the movie starts and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is cool to kind of see that stuff. But this is, and now that they're doing like trailers for certain books, like I wouldn't be surprised, or they should really start doing like, hey, these trailers they're already doing, they're putting on YouTube, they should just put them in front of, or preferably probably in front of, because I don't know, yes, some people are sticking around, or some people have been sticking around the movies to see the end credits. But
now they're trained for Marvel movies. That's
exactly.
The thing. So
exactly.
Right. That's possibly something they could put in right before the end trailer. before the end credit trailer.
I kind of wonder if that. I mean, that's
Sure.
possible, but I wonder if that's the thing that would probably have to be baked in the movie if they're going to do it that
Right.
way. So
Right.
yeah,
I mean, it would be funny if they did that. However they did it. More
Exactly.
synergy, more coordination.
exactly.
That's what we're. All right. Next up.
The Witcher's
Witcher.
first look.
No, I'll say I got this one
Oh, okay.
because
Oh
you
yeah,
were
yeah.
lucky
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I had Doctor Who. Witcher. First look at Anya Chalotra as Yennefer in season 2. Netflix has revealed the first official look at Anya Chalotra as Yennefer in The Witcher season 2. The 2 new photos were shared to The Witcher's official Twitter account on Wednesday. In a tweet that teases Yen's return in the upcoming season, the verse accompanying the first look image reads, "She used her full might and the battlefield burned. Then she vanished from sight, but Yen will return." Oh, who wrote that? Those are just bars. They're spitting. Anyway, next up.
Yeah. So I haven't finished watching. I should go back and actually finish watching that. It wasn't too bad. Invincibles, the Walking Dead creators superhero show drops first trailer. So this is news that came out today. From New York Comic Con. Amazon Prime Video has released the first teaser trailer for Invincible during its panel at New York Comic Con. Invincible is based off of the Skybound Image comic series from The Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Otley. The short teaser introduced viewers to Mike Grayson, Stephen Yeun, and Omni-Man J.K. Simmons. Mark is the son of the most powerful superhero, Omni-Man. You know what? J.K. Simmons for Omni-Man. What little I know of Invincible sounds right also. Anyway, after seeing Mark get accustomed to his powerful abilities, things pick up.
You mean he's an insurance spokesperson?
Bum, 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 bum. No, but I can just, if you've seen the comic, if you've seen the comic and you've seen his dad, how his dad looks, I can see J.K. Simmons as the voice. But anyway, after Mark gets accustomed to his powerful abilities, things pick up from the same violence and bloody action familiar to fans of the Invincible comic series. And you can check out the teaser trailer out there. I hadn't watched it, so I don't know, because I didn't see this before the show. But yeah, did you watch this or interest?
No, I haven't yet. I'm somewhat interested, but I've never read the book other than the Marvel Team Up issue where he crossed over into the Marvel Universe.
Right, that Kirkman wrote. Yeah. I think I've read.
You said Kirkland. He's like the Costco brand.
I know, right? I know. If I said Kirkland, I didn't mean that. But if Costco wants to sponsor the show, I don't know what kind of synergy that would bring up. But sure, holla at us. But Kirkman, wrote that issue, and I think I did read a couple of Invincible issues for some odd reason. But yeah, it is what it is. Next up,
Benedict Cumberbatch is joining Spider-Man 3 as Doctor Strange. This news dropped today out of New York Comic Con. The move puts Cumberbatch into the mentor role that was previously occupied by Robert Downey Jr., who played Tony Stark and Iron Man in Spider-Man Homecoming, and by Sam Jackson in Spider-Man Far From Home, the latter reprising Nick Fury. The role gives Holland a chance to play opposite seasoned actors, gives Peter Parker a father figure, and gives the movies extra star power while also tying them more closely to the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe. This Spider-Man project already has some unexpected ties going for it, as it is bringing back Jamie Foxx's Electro, the actor-character combo last seen in 2014's The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which featured Andrew Garfield as the web-slinging hero. And this, I believe, lends even more credit to the rumors that this is going to be almost directly tied into Multiverse of Madness, where we're going to see a lot of that multiverse stuff start to come forth, and possibly we might see actual live-action Spider-Verse stuff.
Probably, yeah. More on, what is it, Phase 5 at this point?
I have no idea.
Is it 4 or 5? Yeah, this is either Phase 4 or Phase 5 of the MCU at this point. So
no idea.
And especially with the stuff coming out of Ant-Man, that we know Kang's probably involved, and this is they're probably going to go big with that stuff. Maybe we'll see Secret Wars for some strange reason. I don't know how they would. I mean, there's a way. I would like to do original Secret Wars, but I know that's probably that could.
It's tough without Iron Man and Cap.
Yeah.
I mean, Iron Man in Secret Wars is Rhodey anyway, but it's stuff without Cap at least. You know?
I mean, realistically, they can bring Cap back though easily, so that's not, that's especially knowing that there's like this thing going on, the multiverse thing going on,
right?
Or even without that, I mean, they're just like, hey, now we're just gonna go back in time and get the real Cap back or something, or I don't know, the formula made him young again, like they did in the comics.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
because of time travel, they'll pluck him right out of the time stream.
Exactly.
It'll be right in between. Let's say it'll be right between Winter Soldier and Civil War.
Pretty much.
Like right before he goes on the run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you're gonna hear some things, but don't worry about that because just forget that all this happened. But anyway, now we're going to transition over into the comic news. Ooh, and I see an article that I want to pluck out for later because I am curious as to what that's going to be, what that is. But Star Wars fan donates Baby Yoda doll to Oregon firefighters who brings their own calls. So that's sweet. A young Star Wars fan has donated his doll of the Mandalorian's Baby Yoda, which leads Agent 70 to say he's 50. To help lift the spirits of Oregon firefighters currently fighting wildfire, with Baby Yoda now accompanying them out on each call. 5-year-old Carver sent the Baby Yoda doll to the firefighters alongside a heartwarming message reading, quote, "Thank you, firefighters. Here is a friend for you in case you get lonely," quote unquote. The note was accompanied by a small love heart and Carver's signature. He originally purchased the Baby Yoda after joining his grandmother on a shopping trip to buy supplies for the firefighters after she heard about a local donation drive. She would later be informed by the organizer of the donation drive how firefighters love receiving the doll. So that's a nice little story. But next up,
Doctor Doom is putting Marvel's ultimate, in caps, weapon in new hands. Doctor Doom is finally home after having been framed for the deaths of thousands, betrayed by Kang the Conqueror, and forced to retake his throne. Now it's time for Doom to decide which of his former allies he still trusts. Who do you trust? Who do you trust? That's the Joker. Exactly. After arriving back in Latveria by way of a literal bear, Doom announces that each of his 6 closest confidants must swear an oath of fealty and prove that they are worthy of a place by his side. While not all of them retain their former positions, one of Doom's closest allies, upon whom he has already granted incredible power, is given what is without a doubt the single most powerful weapon in all of Marvel, the ultimate nullifier. Okay.
Yeah, so this was from Dr. I'm sorry?
I said go out and read that. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, so this is from Dr. Doom number 7 from last week or week before last. I can't remember which one. I kind of alluded to some of that, but I didn't bring up the fact that who had the ultimate weapon. There was also something else that happened in that issue that I also didn't, and going along with what was said. But yeah, definitely read that issue. It was actually pretty good. Next up, though, Marvel Zombies makes House of X's worst future Marvel's last hope. And this is spoilers for Marvel Zombies Resurrection number 2, which I don't know when that came up because no one was reading that book. No one here is reading that book, I should say. Plenty of terrible transformations have happened in the place of the Marvel Universe. The heroes of the Marvel Zombies Resurrection have been fleeing from those horribly changed by the zombie plague. TLDR, they come across people that save themselves by infecting themselves with the transmode virus.
Okay.
Yeah, and so apparently the whole thing with the transmode virus and the Phalanx, and of course what we know from Hoxpox being in the X-Men's future ends up showing up here in this thing. Next.
All right, next up, George with the S at the end. George Gianti takes over Marvel's upcoming U.S. Agent series. Former Buffy the Vampire Slayer artist George Gianti is taking over art duties on the upcoming U.S. Agent Limited series. John Walker, the former Super Patriot, has been stripped of of his official U.S. agent status and is now operating as an independent government contractor protecting government covert interests, reads Marvel's synopsis for U.S. Agent Number One, and it all goes south. So, if you are unfortunately a fan of U.S. Agent, have fun reading that. I still have a from the Grunwald Captain America days. So.
Yeah, and y'all know how I feel about U.S. agents, so we won't go on that. I will say that every time I hear George Gentil's name, I keep thinking of dude that played Batroc in Winter Soldier.
Oh,
yeah, mixed
George
martial artist. I can't remember. I just looked it up and I told and still forgot. But I keep thinking about that dude. Marvel recognizes its next class of elite artists, quote unquote, and I did the air quotes like y'all can actually see me at this point, as Stormbreakers. And I will get to how I feel about this in a second. But for the past 16 years, Marvel Comics has recognized their top up-and-coming comic artists, naming them as a part of their Young Guns program. And now they have a new class of artists and a new name. 8 artists have been named as the inaugural class of Marvel's Stormbreakers, spotlighting those who the publisher feels are, quote-unquote, the next generation of elite artists in the industry. And they are Pat Gleason, Josh Cassara, Peach Momoko, Nacha Bustos, Ibn Coelho, Carmen Carnello, Juan Cabal, and R.B. Silva. Now, if some of those names sound familiar, yes, they have been doing some work for folks that we have talked about for some time now, which is slightly my problem with this, but it's nice that they're getting recognition. Because it kind of feels like to me, and I'm probably totally wrong about this, so, like these people have already been doing work, and they do great work. Some of them, we definitely know that, so they deserve recognition. But I feel like it's like, this is kind of the thing that you would do, before these people start actually doing the work, as opposed to like, yeah, they've been doing the work and getting the recognition already from fans and whatnot, but now we're just going to take and recognize them.
Yeah, it's a little tough because, and what's funny about this is that I follow the artist Mike Choi on Twitter, and he was a big, he was a young gun back when they were called Young Guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he'd been working on X-Force for a while, and he did X-Men books. And I met him, got his autograph, but he's since moved on to do lots of like different things, not just comic book stuff. He does painting and kind of delves into a lot of different things. And he kind of posted some cynical posts about, having been named a young gun when it came to this announcement. And yeah, I don't know if it really means that much, but like you said, it's nice to get the recognition.
Right. Like after these folks have already been doing work and getting, some sort of light praise from fans of their work, and fans of what they've been doing. So,
right.
it is kind of weird.
Go
ahead. No, I'm finished.
I was just gonna say one of the artists who I saw replied was Nick Bradshaw, who was also named a young man at some point. So yeah, there's some understanding amongst the artist, freelance artist community that. Yeah, I guess it's cool, but it's not necessarily a big deal.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it just seems kind of weird.
Well, yeah. Next up, Daredevil is quote consumed as the title joins the King in Black event. Chip Zdarsky's ongoing Daredevil run is crossing over with the larger King in Black event in January. It all begins with January's Daredevil number 26, the first of a 2-part tie-in with the Dark event. 2 parts. A devil consumed. Matt faces a darkness unlike any before, reads Marvel's solicitation for Daredevil number 26. Meanwhile, Elektra may be in over her head for the first time in her life. Daredevil must find the strength to continue the fight as all hell breaks loose. Interesting. I'm disturbed a little bit by the fact that it's a 2-part crossover.
Milk.
Yeah.
Also,
but it's not like Daredevil needs that kind of support. I think that's one of the more critically acclaimed series right now.
Well, I'm saying milking as far as the event, not because of Daredevil. Yeah.
No. What I was going to say is they're using, in terms of the event, they're using that to boost sales on, what you would think are underperforming books. That's my point.
I guess so. Sure. But like
that's what they're doing with Aliens, aren't they? Oh, no. Shots fired.
Okay. I can't dispute it, but also I'm not ready to say that that's actually the thing. But you're probably right. Also worth noting that Electra was mentioned, and I can't remember if I said it when we talked about Savage Avengers, but I hate the fact that they just used her as a little fling thing with Doctor Strange, because that's like whatever. But anyway, speaking of the King in Black, King in Black temporary tattoos coming from Marvel. Jason Aaron got a real tattoo for the War of the Realms event. And for Marvel's upcoming King in Black event, they're encouraging fans to get tattoos. Well, temporary tattoos. Marvel is sending out 25-pack bundles of the temporary tattoos to retailers, with every comic book store guaranteed to, to receive at least one bundle, with an additional one I guess that's supposed to be thrown in, for every 25 copies of the main King in Black #1 cover they order. So for fans who for some reason might want an entire bundle to themselves, Marvel is selling them to retailers at $10 a bundle. If you buy a whole bundle and put them on your body, make sure to send Newsarama. Okay, I didn't need to say that part. Because they were like, that goes for Donny Cates himself. That's whatever. But sure, that's a thing. Sure. Next up. See, I made it up. See, you got this one.
What are we on? Oh, Marvel Legends 6-inch retro Black Cat figure revealed from Hasbro. Hasbro on Monday, for the first Monday of the month, Marvel Legends reveal showed off their Marvel Legends 6-inch retro Black Cat figure. You can pre-order this figure from BigBadToyStore.com and a couple of other outlets. It's a tribute to the history of Marvel superheroes. The Marvel Retro 6-inch collection features some kind of classic renditions. This Black Cat is sans fur collar. That's really the biggest difference, and less cleavage. So far less cleavage than the last Black Cat that we got several Marvel Legends series ago. I think it was like back in 2016 it came out. So for anyone who missed out on that and wants a Black Cat, this is not a bad substitute for that figure. It also comes with a little kitty cat and a modified cat's claw, whip that came with the last Black Cat, with the first Black Cat kind of comic version. The second Black Cat comic version came out a couple of years ago with the cat eye costume.
Mm-hmm.
It came out and build a figure with. So.
Right, and I guess worth noting, if you're watching the video, you can see the packaging here. It is invoking the spirit of the '90s Spider-Man animated series.
Oh, definitely, just like the rest of the wave.
Correct.
It's already come out. So.
Mm-hmm. So there is that. Next up, as this loads, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales game gets 2 companion books. 1 fiction, 1 nonfiction. Titan Books will release 2 books, 1 fiction and 1 nonfiction, as companions to Insomniac Games' highly anticipated Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales game, which launches physically and digitally on the PlayStation Store on November 12th, 2020. Let's see, November's 10th, Miles Morales game, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales Wings of Fury is written by Brittany Morris, the author of the best-selling Slay. I don't know who that is. Let's see, it's an adventure that leads up directly to the start of the game, and it features Miles coming to terms with what it means to be Spider-Man. And then on February 21st, 2021, Titan will release the full-color coffee table hardback Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, The Art of the Game by Matt Ralphs. So there you go, 2 companion books, not for the price of 1, but with the upcoming game. Next.
Alrighty, next up. Spoiler alert, Power Rangers sets up Jason, Zach, and Trini's cosmic future. Okay. While the rest of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are still back on Earth, Jason, Zach, and Trini have all taken to the stars as Omega Rangers, where they're dealing with the arrival of a brand new celestial level threat called the what? The Imperial? Are you guys reading Marvel Comics? In Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 54, the Empire Real
I think it's
explains
Imperial.
themselves to be is that? Okay,
I think it's Imperial, like
Okay.
you know.
All right. I just think because I read it like that because it does look like Empire from
True.
Marvel.
True.
The Imperial explains themselves to be a kind of god whose actions turn the cycles of existence and whose decisions fuel the tides of death. That's bad grammar. That's not how whose is used. Tides of death and rebirth. Just the grammar the grammar Nazi just like came out, right?
You see,
Just
Roddykat
before
is not the
the period-
only one that gets annoyed when there's editing mistakes.
Oh, of course not. You can't help it. Yeah. The American Rangers got stuff to do.
Right, and of course, I
Well-
think originally they, the show had him going off for some youth summit or something or other. I can't even remember at this point. But regardless, yeah, this is something. Next up, though, loading. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles co-creator takes them down an R-rated path with The Last Ronin. Since their creation in 1987, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have been mostly, teenage. That will change on October 28th, with IDW's publishing TMNT's The Last Ronin. Written by co-creator Kevin Eastman with editor Tom Waltz and drawn by the duo of Asua and Isaac Escorza. The 5-issue series is Batman The Dark Knight Returns-esque adventure with one mystery turtle battling for survival in a dark, technologically advanced future. Which means it's got to be Donatello, right? Because that's the only one of them fellas who would have the chops to survive with a bow stick in technologically advanced future. I said it here now, even though the picture that is accompanying this article is suggesting who you think it would be. Regardless, the idea for The Last Ronin was developed by Eastman and TMNT's co-creator Peter Laird way back in the early days of the franchise, but they had held off until now, bringing it to life. And the rest of the article is an interview with Eastman. So you can check that out at your leisure.
Right. Have you seen the Toys That Made Us episode with the team with Eastman and Laird?
I have not yet, but I do have that series in my queue because I do want to check that whole series out.
Seriously,
I hear
that
good
is one of
things.
the best pieces of documentary film I've ever
heard,
watched.
yeah.
But when it comes to like toy stuff, because it actually deals with more the two of them and what happened to them over
Right.
the course of their careers with the turtles. So, and it's pretty heartwarming, believe it or not.
Yeah, like I said, I've been meaning to check out because you're not the only one to mention that series and that episode to me.
Powerful stuff. All right, next up, this is a spoiler alert for Batman Superman number 12, I think. I had to open this article
Yep,
up
it
because
is.
it's one of those things where it's about a book that none of us are reading. So apparently Batman developed an algorithm that predicts what the DC supervillains might be doing, but then Brainiac hijacks it, and that's the crux of the story.
Because clearly he never learns his lesson.
Of course, and it's up to Steel and I think Batwoman to help out because Batman and Superman are under attack from Brainiac and his computer program.
Yeah. So there you go. Next up, Death Metal brings back a crucial part of the Wildstorm universe. And this is spoiler for Dark Knight's Death Metal Multiverse's End, number 1, which...
Excellent!
Thank you. Came out... I don't know when did it come out. It came out last week? I don't know. Regardless.
It came out last weekend. I think I skimmed it and I was like, I can't read this.
I still don't see how you... Well, I mean, I know y'all like Dark Knights or something. One of y'all did. I can't remember. But I'm like...
But like, I read it out of morbid curiosity because it's just kind of crazy.
Right.
So.
I'm like, more power to you on that one because that's pretty much why I skipped Justice League the last couple of weeks. Or, with only 6 universes remaining after Perpetual's war against the multiverse, remember that whole thing? The race is on to save as many people as possible. Justice Incarnate, the Multiverse's Justice League United, so some would say Justice League United, once more to rescue the civilians trapped on these evil Earths and then blow up the towers they were connected to. And Dark Knight's Death Metal Multiverse End shows how they could possibly rescue and then evacuate everyone living across multiple planets through a familiar DC vessel, the Carrier. I'm not familiar with this vessel, but it goes on to explain the Carrier was a ship formerly operated by the Authority of the Wildstorm universe, and it returns as the Justice Incarnate's escape plan here. This 50-mile-long sentient ship, wow, sounds nothing like a Apocalypse's ship from X Factor. Nothing possibly. Anyway, this 50-mile-long sentient ship, I believe it was the same length also, is capable of traveling through the bleed, the space between alternate realities. This gives its passengers an avenue of temporary escape, and by jumping between worlds, few can follow them, and the ship is also powered by a baby universe. Because DC's crazy like that. So there you go. And I think there is the tie. And apparently it was first introduced in Warren Hustle's Brian Hitch and Bill O'Neill's The Authority #1. Which, if that's the book, I'm thinking of Planetary, so that's not the book I'm thinking of. So, yeah, anyway, regardless, there you go. And it shows up in this thing. So, which we know that whilst they're trying to fold Wildstorm back into DC Universe, and I guess this is kind of a way to do that. Secret Wars style. Next up,
DC has postponed plans to republish the first Gen 13 story arc. God, makes me feel old. With the long out-of-print Gen 13 Starting Over collection now scheduled for a 2022 release. It was originally announced for a May 4th, 2021 debut, but is now listed. The collection is now listed.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Did we drop?
Okay, no, it must have it fixed itself. You hung up, you froze for a second, but
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, but it fixed itself, looks like.
I just heard you say uh-oh. That's weird.
Yeah. Cuz it was weird cuz you froze and then I heard a beep and then it fixed itself. So let me make sure that okay, yeah, we're still going. We're good. Carry on.
All right, cool. All right, so Gen 13, oh wow, this is old school, man. This is J. Scott Campbell, Jim Lee, Brandon Choi. Gen 13 is part of the dormant Wildstorm universe, a line of comics created by Jim Lee during his time at Image. DC acquired Wildstorm back in 1999 and continued to run it as a subsidiary until 2010. For the past few years, we've seen few and far in between appearances by Wildstorm characters in the DCU, but as Roddykat mentioned, we saw the Authority's Carrier in Dark Knight's Death Metal, Multiverses End #1, and Grifter is planned to be reintroduced in Batman 101 later this month.
Yes, and so sadly, some of you will have to wait to get some of Jake Scott Campbell's impossibly angled women figures.
Hey, there's always Black Widow variant covers.
Yeah, sure, but
hey man, that's what I buy.
It's still ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, that's a thing. Did you ever read Gen 13?
Here and there.
Okay.
I didn't read it when it first came out.
Gotcha.
Just here and there.
Yeah. I've only heard about it in whispers. DC Far Sector writer N.K. Jemisin named as MacArthur Fellow. So shout out to her. Didn't get it. Yeah, very much. Well, not very much because I didn't get it, but you know what I mean. DC's Far Sector writer N.K. Jemisin has been named as a part of the 2020 class of MacArthur Fellows. She is among a group of 21 named in this year's honors. Quote, Jemisin is broadening the spectrum of participants in speculative fiction's creation and surrounding fandom through her published works as well as her world-building workshops, frequent interviews, and active presence on social media. And she very much is. I do follow her. Reads John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation's write-up of the author. So, in addition to Far Sector for DC, Jemison is also the author of the prose novels The Fifth Season, The Obelisk Gate, and The City She Became. She's the first author to have won the Hugo Author Award, for Best Novel in 3 consecutive years for novels in the same trilogy. And she also streams on Twitch every now and then.
Okay.
Next up.
All right. Next up, the 2020 Harvey Award winners have been revealed. The Hollywood Reporter can exclusively reveal the winners of the 2020 Harvey Awards. The official awards ceremony is actually later this week. So this is a gigantic spoiler, apparently, unless it came out already.
Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure.
Right. So Book of the Year is Dragon Hoops by Jean Luen Yang. I'm just going to highlight a couple. The Best Children or Young Adult book is Superman Smashes the Klan by Jean Luen Yang and Kuri Guru from DC Comics. Best adaptation from a comic book graphic novel is Watchmen by HBO, based on Watchmen DC Comics. Okay.
Yeah, so apparently, if at the time of this, well, I guess it is kind of a spoiler because it looks like the award ceremony is going to happen on October 9th, which is, well, granted, it's just
today.
Yeah, which is today as of this recording because we just passed midnight doing this recording. So we're going to speed this up just a little bit more and say we don't have much left, really. Break-in at UK Comics distribution warehouse leads to delays for comic stores around the world.
Ooh.
Yeah, Diamond Comic Distribution have informed retailers that the company's warehouse in the United Kingdom was ransacked over the weekend, affecting planned comics distribution to comic stores who utilize Diamond as their distributor. "Quote unquote, I'm afraid that I have to report that the Diamond UK warehouse facility has been broken into over the weekend," reads a letter from the distributor to affected retailers sent Monday morning. "We've been working with the police and their forensics team throughout the day, but have been unable to access the building for most of the day. We are now in a position to start cleaning up the mess and devastation that the thieves have left behind and are aiming to reopen the UK warehouse Tuesday morning so that's, I guess, this Tuesday coming as of this article." That sucks, and I would say who would want that stuff, but that doesn't matter in certain cases, but that's messed up. And yeah, and I don't know if anyone, like, clearly this is affecting folks around the world. Whether your local place here in the States is going to be drastically affected by that, I guess we'll find out.
No, that's mostly, I was going to say this is mostly European, African,
Right.
Middle Eastern, anyone who is getting their comics shipped from Diamond UK.
Right.
That's whatchamacallit. That's
well, yeah,
that's
just
their
said, mostly non-American comic shops. So yeah, so we should be all right here in the States, but that still sucks.
It does.
Next up, though.
Next up, so this is kind of sucky. The Diamond Comic Distributors has informed comic book retailers that the Walter Simonson's The Mighty Thor Artisan Edition, the cheaper version of the Artist Edition, trade paperback edition, published back in June, contains multiple misprints, resulting in several cut-off pages. However, they also note that the book will not be reprinted. Here's a look at some of the pages in question. Consider it more of a warning in case it's an issue. It's not terrible. If you go to the website, this is a Bleeding Cool story, and the picture that they show, the cutoff isn't that bad. Like, it's just like it's missing like a corner here and there on the page, but it's probably not every cutoff page.
Right. Like that was, yeah, they just only showed one picture of it, so I ain't no telling what else is in there that might be messed up. But at the same time, yeah, it's not, if it's all like that, it's not as bad as what it could be. But they're basically not doing any reprints of this, so.
I mean, I think that's. I think they're making a mountain out of a molehill, at least from the picture that I'm seeing.
Right.
Like, that's literally not a big deal at all.
Well, see,
it's
and that
literally a corner page that doesn't affect anything that's actually in the storytelling.
Right, and like I said, if it's all like that, it's not that big a deal. I hesitated about even bringing this up because, one, this is the only place that I've seen this articles, and I kind of generally don't like doing a lot of Bleeding Cool stuff for this reason. But just in case, I don't know. So if I had seen this other way, well, I probably would have still not done it. Regardless, that is what it is. Last but not least, a little fun story.
No, it's not last. click refresh on your page.
Oh wait, did you? You did add something, did you not?
Pretty cool.
Oh, okay. So next to the last but not least, um, is a fun little story. That's not comic related, but kind of is if and you'll see what I'm talking about. Scientists claim evidence of parallel universe where time runs backwards. So parallel universes are something any sci-fi fan worth their salt knows about, thanks to decades of pop culture, where they've depicted everything from an evil Spock with goatee to a Spider-Verse where Miles Morales teams up with fellow web slingers. Purported evidence of a parallel universe was put forth back in 2015, and now scientists believe that they have discovered evidence of not only a neighboring parallel universe, but one where time runs backwards. So not only is a parallel universe, it's a bizarre world. That was me saying that, but not the article. According to the New York Post, scientists conducted cosmic ray detection experiments in Antarctica, of all places. Conducting cosmic ray detection experiments in Antarctica have uncovered what they believe is evidence of a parallel universe where the laws of physics differ from our own. If this is not the start of a brand new series, I don't know what is. Comic series, I don't know what it is. They reportedly detected high energy particles rising out of Antarctica, which is contrary to how these particles are supposed to behave. Since they are supposedly only be able to detect it when they come down from space, to detect a heavier particle, a tau neutrino, coming up from the Earth would imply that these particles are actually traveling backwards in time. Or the Avengers are trying to merge two worlds and we just don't know about it.
Oh my goodness. That's funny. That's funny.
So yeah,
I would ask you.
What's that?
Oh no, I was about to say if you're not done with that, go ahead.
Well, just the one that's noted, scientists believe that such a parallel universe would be the result of the Big Bang over 13 billion years ago, where not only was our universe formed, but this parallel one as well. And then there's a breakdown from New Scientist. But you were gonna say?
Got it. No, I was gonna say make sure you open this last article.
Oh yeah, I did. Go for it. Take it.
Oh, because I want you to see it. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Like a line drive out of nowhere, Amazon has listed. I caught wind of this on a tweet. Amazon has listed a new exclusive for a Marvel Legends 5-pack, and it's a big one. The Children of Thanos features Thanos from Avengers and actually Endgame, really. With a post-snap alternate head and arm, along with 4 of his minions, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw, Corvus Glaive, and Call Obsidian. It's listed at $119 with a December 15th ship date, just in time for Christmas. I ordered mine already because
someone's missing from the Black Order.
From the comic Black Order or from the movie Black Order?
Probably both, but definitely comic.
Well, the comic Black Order also had Black Swan.
Well, yeah, but she wasn't part of like the Black Order like that. I mean, she was, but kind of in a different sense. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But and yeah, they definitely didn't do it in movie form, which this version is doing. I recognize that fact. But I feel like there was. Did they have 5 in the movie, or am I tripping?
No, it's 4.
Was it 4 in the movie? Okay. Well, regardless, carry on.
It was 4, as I recall. Now you're gonna.
I mean, I do remember all 4 of these people, but I feel like did they not have the 5th person in there, or was that actually Black Swan and they just didn't?
I think it was Black Swan. Now I'm gonna look. But what's cool about this is that I honestly was. I think I even mentioned it on the show. I kind of regretted not picking up the Black Order, even though they were, the MCU version and not the comics version.
Super Giant.
Right, but that's whatchamacallit. I think that's supposed to be Obsidian. The big guy. Oh no, I think they Super Giant in the comics, so I don't think they ever carried him over into the movies.
Right.
Right. Super Giant, I guess, was in the original story.
Right.
But Super Giant never made it into the movies.
Right.
But I could have sworn Super Giant gets killed, and it's essentially whatchamacallit. It's essentially the Black Swan.
That's Well, I'm not sure about that part, but we know Black Swan was definitely with them, but I don't know if she was actually like a member.
Hmm.
Like she might have been more of a hound or something. I don't remember. Regardless, the four from the movie are right here in this good looking set.
Right. I love it because I was really tempted to build this because, as we've all stated, or at least as I've stated, I'm a huge fan of the Infinity miniseries that Hickman did
Mm-hmm.
during his Avengers run.
As were
That
we all.
I was absolutely floored by that. There's great art in it and just some great storytelling, and I really was impressed that they brought the Black Order to life on screen as well. And while they're obviously movie accurate now, they're more movie accurate now because the previous versions of these characters produced for Marvel Legends were all um, based off of promo art. These are now, more solidly based on what actually appeared in the movie. Um, Still, I'm glad to be able to put together the Black Order so that I can do some Infinity stuff.
Right, a version of
Mm-hmm. I mean, how much different are you going to get? At least Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight.
I mean, true. You're right. I'm not
You know how much? Like obviously you would rather have comic accurate. I would rather have comic accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more than willing to fold these characters in because they don't delve that. I mean, look at Corvus Glaive. Corvus Glaive basically is his comic counterpart.
Sure. I mean, because
is the one that looks different. The one that looks the most different, and the Ebony Maw looks essentially the same too. So.
Sure. I mean, and I'm saying this knowing you, and like you just said, like you would, prefer the comic accurate ones. Saying, and you are right that these definite versions, despite being the movie version, are as similar as the comic versions is probably we're going to get, at least some of them anyway. So
right.
Cool either way though.
Right, very happy about this because I definitely had said that I was not happy about the fact that Cull Obsidian was a Build-A-Figure,
mm-hmm.
and Corvus Glaive was like a limited 2-pack with like MCU Loki, and forget trying to track those down for decent prices,
Yeah.
So now they're putting these out. They're putting these out in a 5-pack. That's pretty cool.
Indeed. And do we have a word on price?
$119.
Okay.
Yeah, that's sure. Fair.
Yeah, that's not bad.
2 of these are actually Build-A-Figures.
I mean, that's pretty much a set price.
Yeah. Thanos is a Build-A-Figure, and so is, whatchamacallit, the big guy.
Yeah.
Cull Obsidian.
I was about to say, not to be confused with the Hulk, but yes. Not
yeah,
that big guy.
No, true enough. So,
but good.
But yeah, and Corvus was a member that was a 2-pack guy. So,
so yeah, enjoy that when you get it.
Pretty enthusiastic about it.
Somehow I didn't expect you to be as enthusiastic as you are about it, but hey, I'm happy for it.
Only because I literally was thinking about this maybe a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like it crossed my mind, like, oh man, it's a shame I'm not going to be able to put together Black Order, and they literally put the entire team together on their own.
Yeah.
I just wish that there's a couple of things that we all kind of hope that they would put out as special figures, that were Build-A-Figures that people just didn't, necessarily care about putting together, like the Kingpin.
Right.
They put one out, and that made me instantly happy that I did not put that wave together. Although, before we close off the show, I don't have them with me, but I stopped at a comic book store on Long Island while I was on my hunt for Storm and Thunderbird, which I'm going to remind you of at Target now. And you don't think I'm not going to try to check around the Target by my sister's house.
Well, I would expect nothing less.
In the wilds of upstate New York to see if I could pick up a Storm and Thunderbird. But I was going to say that I picked up Night Thrasher without, like a loose Night Thrasher with all of his stuff, and it was pretty cool. And I also picked up a loose Bulldozer So I am 1/4 of my way to the Wrecking Crew.
Nice.
So I'm never going to put that Wrecking Crew together. It's going to be impossible unless I decide to put up some big bucks. So
Hmm.
it's going to be tough. But anyway, that'll wrap this week's episode of Pseudo Toy Corner because I don't have any toys to show.
Right.
So.
Well, it says you can get that 2-pack ordered to a store. It doesn't seem like there's one here though.
Where Target?
Yeah.
On the Target website?
Yeah, Target says like I can get it. I can get it shipped to the store to pick up.
Really?
Yeah.
I was about to say an update. That is an update from where we've been over the last week. So they might have it in stock online.
Oh yeah, exactly. So you could yeah.
Would be very helpful. Well, we can handle this after we wrap the show.
You take care of that. Well, actually, you take care of this ad read. Well, you know.
All right. Our last ad read of the night when we're running along is always Amazon. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment. That helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we come to an end of another episode of the Comic Book Chronicles, we would like to thank each and every one of you folks for coming out and or sticking with us this long, because I know this wasn't a long one, but sometimes that happens when there's news. I suspect because of New York, New York's virtual Comic-Con, there's probably going to be more next week. Just saying. With that, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CB Caps on Instagram.
Hold on, it just says it's out of stock.
Oh.
Tried to add it to my cart and it's now out of stock.
Oh, weird. Well, live update, folks. You can also find Agent_70 on Twitter at that, and also on Instagram at Agent_70.
Right. Check out my Inktober stuff, and you'll also find me at local Targets looking for the Star and Thunderbird 2-pack. Just look for the guy in sunglasses muttering under his breath.
Probably with a Captain America shirt.
Exactly.
He is not joking, folks. I'm telling you, he is not joking. But you can also find PCN_Dirt at PCN_Dirt on Twitter. You can also find him at Pop Culture Nets on Twitter. You can also find him at popculturenetwork.com and his umbrella sites therein. You can also find him, I assume he's still doing this. I really need to ask him about that, on Byte under Comic Reviews No Vowels. And if you didn't know, Byte was the Vine replacement, but there's no replacing Vine. Let's face it, TikTok's probably come close, but whatever's. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of this ish, and I say that because without Tim there wouldn't be no Comic Book Chronicles, and without the Coastal podcast there would be no Coastal Podcast Network. But hey, it's all that. But yes, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION. The CB Cron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, theclicknation.com, and also Comic Book Resources, which is over there writing his face off. You can find us also here on the comic book. Speaking of the CSPN, you can find us at the Coastal Podcast Network at cspn.us.
Do it today.
Sometimes I wonder about editing some of the stuff, but no, I'm not doing that. I'm too lazy for that, because there's a lot of stuff I would be doing. Regardless, you could also find us at your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. as he's still searching for high and low for these figures or whatever he's doing.
I am absolutely. You absolutely got that damn right.
I know you. I know this for a fact. We have spent too long in this situation to not know this. But regardless, where am I? Oh,
Like, you can see me intently looking at my.
absolutely.
My
I know
screen.
when this dude is like, okay, he's either watching football, which we already established has not been the case, but in he's looking for Marvel figures, doggedly, as he said. But stay tuned next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Every Thursday night, 9:30ish p.m. on the Click Nation's YouTube channel or on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, where we go live every week on that date and time. Thank you. You can also find us, of course, after the fact on the aforementioned CSPN.us and all that kind of good mess, where the audio comes out sometime during the weekend, like Saturday and Sunday. And we will, of course, tweet that out when that happens on our social medias. Therein, folks, we are done here. Stay tuned next week for more New York Comic Con news and other, assorted news from the comic book universe. This has been...
I was about to say, we're also going to get Baltimore Comic Con stuff too.
Oh, right. Wait, did they also do a
Virtual too.
Yeah, because they're usually a week after anyway. So yeah, this is gonna be a fun couple of weeks, folks. It's probably gonna be some of the same stuff though. I'd imagine. Whatever didn't come out of New York, that somebody waited for Baltimore. Because at this point, since it's virtual, they'll probably split some of that stuff.
Probably.
Which makes sense. But anyway, stay tuned next week, and we'll bring you some of that. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll definitely be bringing you as much as we can about that stuff. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Would you believe